Hello there, and welcome back to the Agostino Zinga Show with your host, Agostino Zinga, and this is episode number 1002. This is episode number 1002. Welcome back to the Agostino Zinga Show, coming at you live and direct from an undisclosed location somewhere within the depths of East London. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Great, amazing, good to know, good to know. How am I? All good, all dandy on my end of the things. United are playing Tottenham later on today. I think it's today. Yeah, today, not Sunday. For once, we don't have a Sunday kickoff, so that should be a really good. I think that might be the first game of the weekend, actually. If I'm not mistaken, I think that might be the first game of the weekend. United hosting, I think, Tottenham at home, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're playing at Old Trafford. I'm pretty sure we're playing at Old Trafford. That should be a pretty decent game, especially considering how poor Tottenham, or up and down Tottenham's form's been this season. For whatever reason, Thomas Frank hasn't really hit the ground running. Maybe it's a lack of, money and transfer fee or transfer budget. Sorry, Daniel Levy leaving hasn't necessarily fixed things either. It's been a bit of a weird season for Tottenham, ongoing. But they've had a couple decent results, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot who they draw recently. I think they played in the FA Cup as well, but I'm not really too sure because I've missed out on watching some of their game. But if I double check here, Tottenham's previous results, what have they been? Previous results from Tottenham here. They drew 2-2 against Man City. It was a really good result. They won away at Frankfurt, which is a great result. Drawing at home at Burnley, probably not the greatest result. They beat Dortmund, lost to West Ham, lost to Aston Villa, lost to Bournemouth. So they have 3 losses back to back, right? They got knocked out of the FA Cup. Either side of that, they had 2 league defeats, but then they went on a pretty decent run. Dortmund win at home, 2-0, and then 2-2 draw at Burnley. I think is a decent result, all things considered. Then going away to Eintracht Frankfurt and getting a 2-0 win, I think is a great result. Then drawing 2-2 against Man City is a great result too. Man City have been pretty shit anyway, so it's not something to read about that. So it might be a tight game, but it'll be an up and down game. It'll be an open game, I think. A lot of attacking play happening. I'm looking forward to seeing Dominic Solanke playing again. I'm a big fan of Dominic Solanke. I think he's a very, very underrated striker here in England. We probably, he's probably got no chance of ever starting for England, especially until the time that Harry Kane decides to retire. There's no chance that Dominic Solanke will ever play for England. But in terms of a backup striker, in terms of the next generation, I think Dominic Solanke is definitely a player that people should be looking at more often than that. I think he scored like a crazy bicycle kick, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he scored like a crazy bicycle kick against Man City for the equaliser. That was absolutely disgusting. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I saw a replay of that somewhere on Twitter the other day. So he's on a pretty decent run of form. Yeah, Solanke scored 2 goals. He scored, yeah, exactly. He scored, I think the 70th goal must have been the fucking flick behind the head. I'm pretty sure that was the fucking second goal there. But he's been absolutely killing. Actually, let me just double check on the Sky News thing and see if that flick, actually, was that the equaliser? So I'm just watching it back now on my phone. Yeah, that was the equaliser. Oh my God, that was the equaliser, God damn it, what a crazy goal. Was that Xavi Simons on the assist? Yeah, I think that might have been Xavi Simons on the assist as well as it goes out to the wing. But I think it's been, again, had a lot of negativity around it, but I think he's played pretty decent. No, it wasn't Xavi Simons or somebody else. I forgot who it was on the assist, but it wasn't Xavi Simons. Whoever it was absolutely killed it. Very, very cool finish from Dominic Solanke. And I'm actually looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a really fucking good game. Very open, very end-to-end. United v Tottenham is going to happen. I'm really fucking... Oh, yeah, it was Xavi Simons on the assist. Okay, my mistake. It actually was Xavi Simons. Big up Xavi Simons. Was it? Yeah. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Xavi Simons. It was Conor Gallagher. My bad. It was Conor Gallagher. Oh, yeah, they got Conor Gallagher, innit? They recently bought Conor Gallagher. We were actually linked to him in the summer. We were actually linked to Conor Gallagher in the summer, but he never actually came through. I think he would have been a decent addition to add to numbers, but I've got my eye on that Nottingham Forest fucking midfielder, Anderson. That's who I've got my eye on. If there was ever a player that I would love for us to sign, especially in the summer, I'm fucking hoping it's Elliot Anderson, because he looks like a fucking baller. He looks like, I don't know how to describe him. I guess looks wise you would say he's more like a Gerrard, but he's a lot more like composed on the ball. He can play in a traditional midfield role. He's not as maybe as helter-skelter as Gerrard once was. Maybe also not as clutch in terms of big moments, but in terms of just being a competent midfielder, he's solid, man. Solid. Up and down the pitch. can play, I think, defensively, can play attacking wise, good in the tackle, great passing range, ability to shoot, head the ball. He looks like a proper baller, and he's at that age as well. I think he's like 22, 23-ish. So he's at a good age as well, where he's kind of, you know, coming into his own. He's played a bunch of first team football for Nottingham Forest. He's a starter, plays literally every single game. He's kind of, you know, without even having the armband, he's sort of like a leader and a captain there. So when he comes into the team, you're going to, you know, what you would consider, he'd be one of the senior ones taking responsibility at midfield, especially with someone like Casemiro kind of going at the exit door. That's one of the good things about letting go of a player like Casemiro and kind of refreshing a bit. It kind of gives a chance, it gives more space to other players to come through and do their thing going forward. So I'm really fucking looking forward to it. I'm honestly looking forward to that. I cannot wait for that to happen. And then I think that might be it when it comes to all those things. We've got Tottenham, yeah. So Spurs is happening until midday, and then a few other bits and bobs. Oh, and I also got to catch up on flipping and what's that thing called? What's the show called? Is it A Night of the what? A Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Is that the show? A Night of the Seven Kingdoms? The new fucking Game of Thrones show that I've been really fucking enjoying. Yeah, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm so far on episode 3. I think episode 4 dropped the other day, if I'm not mistaken. Episode 4, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, dropped the other day. It is really entertaining, man. It's really good. It's like it's not as dark as regular Game of Thrones stuff that you're probably used to, like House of Dragons or Game of Thrones itself. It's a bit more of a fun, like kind of loose, not so serious rendition, like example, you know, version of Game of Thrones. It tells a different story of this hedge knight called Dunk, who is assisted by his squire called Egg, who, you know, spoiler alert, is a secret Targaryen, but is a kid who kind of ran away and shaved his head, but wants to kind of live a simpler life and shit. And it kind of, you know, traces their journey. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the original books are spread across, there's graphic novels too. I'm pretty sure the original story is spread across 3 books. It tells the story of them kind of meeting. It tells the story of, you know, of the sort of like the journey of Dunk being a hedge knight and then essentially becoming a proper knight towards the end of the story. And I think it also tells the story of Egg, you know, kind of growing up and sort of like, you know, reluctantly accepting his Targaryen destiny and whatever else it may be, and the battles that come with that. And the other thing that's really cool about the series is that this happens, I think, a few years after House of Dragon. So it's kind of, this series sits between House of Dragon and Game of Thrones. So just when the dragons and stuff basically went extinct, right? So there weren't no more dragons. There were eggs still around, but the eggs weren't being hatched for whatever reason, and there was no more dragons. So the Targaryen kind of rule and power was sort of like diminished because they didn't have their quote unquote, you know, for lack of a better term, they didn't have their weapons of mass destruction. They didn't have their nuclear armory that they could scare you know, other families and other whatever else with. So it kind of made things a bit fairer, you know, a lot of more skullduggery going on. But it's a really good series. It's a really fun series. It's not as, like I guess again, not as harsh and as serious as House of Dragon or Game of Thrones. The episodes are like 40 minutes to maybe 50 minutes long max. It's not super slapstick funny in terms of banter and shit, but it has got a bit of a funny edge to it. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've really fucking enjoyed it. And it's just impressive to see, like, you know, for as lazy as George R. R. Martin is, right, in terms of finishing the books, right, George R. R. Martin has let the fame get to his head. He's kind of taken his foot off the pedal. He's not as serious when it comes to finishing the books. I get it. And a lot of us fans, especially us fantasy fans, we're frustrated with fucking George R. R. Martin's refusal or reluctance to finish the Game of Thrones series in general. But one thing that you have to give the guy credit for, is kind of amazing to see somebody who kind of created this entire world, this entire universe in their head, be able to kind of spit out so many different, you know, be able that those creations that he kind of made up in his head are now kind of translating into series that are going to live long in the memories of other people. It's going to kind of live, you know, it's going to kind of go on to live its own sort of life. It's kind of incredible. And these are all things somebody just thought of in their head. You know, you just sat there one day, thought of this incredible story, this incredible tale, these incredible families, these intricate storylines, these interpersonal dynamics, politics, relationships, love, betrayal, loyalty, war, strategy, like all these things are all intertwined in the universe, and it's so crazy to see them be depicted on the screen, because some of the things they put on the series are like a like-for-like representation or translation of the books, because, you know, like an idiot, I've read up on all these books, and I've watched a ton of YouTube videos from a bunch of different fucking channels where I get, you know, all of my stuff from and whatnot, so I know the entire story. But it's kind of cool to see how they interpret it, you know, because certain things in the book probably don't translate well on screen and vice versa. So it's an interesting conundrum for the showrunners and the producers and directors who are working on this Night of the Seven Kingdoms series on TV to decide which thing they should go for, you know, which things they should add onto the show, what things shouldn't they add onto the show. It's been a pretty interesting thing to watch, but I really fucking enjoyed it. And again, I know I'm a big fantasy fan anyway. I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to that sort of stuff, so I guess if you're not into Game of Thrones, if you're not into House of Dragon, you're not going to enjoy this. But I would say if there was a series from that fantasy sort of like group or that area, sorry, that I think would be something that a lot of people would probably vibe with and be into, I think this would be it. I honestly think this would be it. I honestly think if there was something within that fantasy area that a lot of people would vibe for, I think this would be it. I really have fucking enjoyed this. And then you know what, the other thing I've actually enjoyed too, there's this other series too I've actually enjoyed. It's a UK series and it's a bit of a weird one, this one, right? Let me see if I can find it. I think I got the recommendation from The Guardian. There was a series that I actually really have enjoyed. It's a UK series, so those of you that like UK series, I recommend you check it out. It's called After the Flood. It's called After the Flood. It stars this lady called Sophie Rundle, shines in the return of this dark detective drama. There's 2 seasons. For some reason in the UK, we call season series and we call episodes right, but for some reason we don't call them seasons. But essentially there's 2 seasons, and to give you a general premise of the show, it kind of depicts this like small rural town in England, and it kind of goes through a bit of a weather tragedy, you know, where there's a flood that kind of basically covers the entire village. A ton of people die, but then a ton of people are stranded, houses are destroyed, and you kind of get the whole look into how maybe the local council was cutting corners in terms of having flood defenses and shit, and then, you know, and some of the issues going on with maybe the local property developers and all that kind of interpersonal stuff. But then in the midst of the flood, they discover a body. But then when they discover the body, they quickly find out that the body had been made to look like it had whoever the person died, it was made to look like that person that died in the flood, but they actually were murdered. And it kind of tells the story of like the police trying to get to the bottom of who that person was that was murdered, how their body got there, and it also all these other storylines are running parallel at the same time of all these people in this village whose lives have been destroyed from this flood, where the effects of it were somewhat preventable if the local council were more, you know, on it when it came to the budget and weren't cutting corners and weren't, you know, putting stuff in brown envelopes and blah 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 blah. It's an interesting story. I personally have enjoyed it. I think season 1 was better than season 2 personally, if I'm going to be completely honest. But again, really strong performances from everybody in terms of the cast. I think the main lady in this, her name's Sophie Rundle. I think she does an incredible job personally. This main lady in this series, I think, does a really fucking good job in terms of depicting, you know, a very stalwart, a very kind of disagreeable, a very headstrong, bordering, because, you know, when it comes to TV series, especially for me personally, I find it really difficult to kind of gel with some of the female leads, because for whatever reason, it's actually based on a book. Okay, I didn't know that. It's based on an actual book. It's actually based on a book by someone called Cassandra Montag. I had no idea. That's pretty cool. So for me, sir, personally, I find it sometimes a bit difficult to kind of vibe with female leads, because I don't know why, but nowadays I think it's on purpose. A lot of writers tend to write the female leads as kind of annoying and, you know, naggy personalities. I think they do it on purpose because they want you to, like, you know, go crazy on social media and complain about these characters. But for me, I just can't vibe. It just doesn't, you know, sit well. It just turns me off. But I personally think they wrote this lady really well, this character. I think she's played incredibly well, very kind of, you know, the kind of complex character in terms of her goals and stuff. She's basically a police officer who's kind of following the steps of her dad, who passed away, who was also a famous detective, and she's trying to get to a detective level. But as she's about to become a detective, she gets pregnant by a fellow police officer who's also a detective, and it's kind of like that control, you know, that contrast or that conflict between the two of them. They both work in the same police department. She's also going for a detective. She's clearly got like natural talents that she's kind of got from her dad and instincts and shit, and she's trying to basically prove herself while she's still, like, you know, 6 months pregnant. So it's whatever, however many months she is pregnant. So it's a really interesting sort of like dynamic between there as well, and just generally just seeing how the village reacts to the flood, the lack of I think a lot, the thing I liked about it most actually was resilience and refusal to move from the local people. I think that's something we saw a lot with COVID. A lot of people during COVID were just like, look, whatever happens. If I die, I die, but I'm not leaving. I'm not gonna not live my life, you know. Some people had that sort of like outlook when it came to COVID, and you got the same sort of thing with the flood. A ton of people who are not willing to kind of like leave their home and abandon it because they're afraid of people coming and robbing, and they also would rather just, if they're gonna die where they're kind of, you know, well, a place where they call home. And I think there's a family that actually passes away because of a generator or something else that happened there. Again, spoiler alert, I know, don't fucking hate me, but I still think it's a worthwhile series to actually watch, regardless of my unfortunate level of spoilers I've just maybe given you there. I still think it's a good enough series for some people to actually check out. I really fucking did enjoy it. I recommend you check it out. It's called After the Flood. After the Flood. It's available on ITVX, I think, if you're here in the UK. And if you're not in the UK, you'll be able to check it out and, you know, figure out where you can find it. But it's a really cool series. I really fucking enjoyed it. Let me quickly read you the review here, courtesy of The Guardian, for series 2. It says, this crime drama lead is a luminous... Yo, big up Casual, appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat, bro. Big up Casual.
At Casual 9982 donated $10 through super chat. Big up Saz, hope you're healing up well. Cheers, brother.
Yeah, big up Casual. Yeah, we're getting there, man. We're getting there bit by bit. We are getting there. Big up Casual. This crime drama lead is luminous as ever in a show that is cut above the norm. Most crime dramas don't even attempt to elevate themselves above the genre. Someone gets killed, suspects abound, detectives pottle around for a bit, then the culprit is caught and everyone forgets about what they just watched. No harm in that. A select few, however, are so good that they break out of their category. The likes of Happy Valley, Line of Duty do have cops collecting clues to try to nail the villain, but are so well made that they leave regular crime behind and rise up to mix with the swankiest of prestige drama. By the way, Happy Valley, again, I recommend. Another one with a female lead, fucking incredible. Line of Duty might be one of the best cop dramas of all time. It's hard to say this now because if you're not from the UK, you wouldn't know about Line of Duty, but Line of Duty might be one of the best cop dramas of all time anyway. So I really recommend you check that out as well. Line of Duty is fucking amazing. Then there are shows that are somewhere in between, premium genre pieces, you could call them. They stick to the template of Sleuthfest that air on the weeknights or terrestrial channels on 9 PM and can be enjoyed purely on that level, but they're pushing at the edges, adding quality where they could easily not bother. Unforgotten is one in 2024, the first season of writer Mick Ford's Yorkshire set series After the Flood is another. After Flood's main trick is simply that there is a lot going on. It's actually what I mentioned before, there's a lot going on. In season 1, its hero Joe Marshall, Sophie Rundle, big up her, was a junior police officer applying her strong morals to a murder case she wasn't assigned to, without telling her more senior cop husband that she was up to. She did that while heavily pregnant, in a way that exposed deep historic corruption in her department. All this in the aftermath of a flood in her perpetual rained on hometown that enabled the script to make a powerful but not hectoring point about the climate crisis and the way the communities in the north of England were left defenseless against the rising waters. Yeah, there was a lot of that too, by the way. There's a lot of that commentary about, you know, the lack of like care and attention being given to people up north, because you saw that during COVID. I'd never really noticed it prior to COVID. Again, forgive my naivete and my ignorance, but I never noticed the north-south divide that people speak about. But you did notice a lot of it with COVID, with the lockdowns. I think basically us in London, we were the first to open up and be back to quote-unquote normal. People up north had to wait a little bit longer. Their restrictions were kind of based on what we were going through in London, despite maybe the numbers being different and the spread being different. But you know, it's just there's a lot of like unfair treatment sometimes, a lot of like lack of consideration. They're not really made a priority in certain things, and most of the funding is kind of siphoned down here, blah 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 blah. And obviously that affects people's like real lives and shit. It continues. The finale, which had a second flood, the birth of Joe's baby, the solution of the murder, and the unveiling of a corrupt kingpin's identity was a belter. Now, a year on, Joe is a proper detective. She's separated from her baby's father, Pat, Rundle's real life other half. Wow, I didn't know that. Is that true? So the person that she plays, that's pretty cool. I kind of like when series do that, to be fair, when they have like real life couples playing couples on a TV show. That's actually kind of cool. So in the TV show, these two are a couple. So Sophie Rundle and Matt Stokey. But I guess in real life they're actually a couple too. I didn't know that. Let me actually check. Let me actually see her Instagram. I had no idea. That's actually pretty cool. Let's scroll down. That's Sophie Rundle's IG. That's her with her family. Is that him there? Oh, for some reason, I don't know why it's not loading. Bear with me a second here. Let's see. Hopefully it loads. Don't know why it's not loading. For some of that wasn't loading. Cool. Yeah, it looks like they're actually okay. That's actually not too bad. I didn't know that. That is actually pretty cool. That they're actually a real life family. I probably like that. I'm not mad at that in the slightest. That's an interesting development there to learn. So yeah, so big up Sophie Rundle. Let's see, Sophie Rundle husband. Yeah, they're actually together. Okay, I didn't know that. They're actually together in real life. That's pretty cool. That is actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, cool. Let's continue. A year on, Joe's proper detective. She's been separated from her baby's father, Pat Rundle. But together they've vowed to bring down the big cop who secretly runs a town. Then a body turns up on the moors, which must be connected either to the chemicals company dumping nasty stuff in the river, or the burning of the heather on the uplands. Or the fly tipping of the commercial waste on the farmland, or all three. Oh, and someone is going around dabbing the red X on the random buildings in protest we know not what. To be honest, I don't know if they ever revealed who that person was. That's another subplot of the series about the random person that's putting the X's all over the bill. I'm not sure they actually revealed who that person was. Anyway, it continues. Rundle remains luminous in the lead role. Her Joe, a beacon of sympathy and curiosity in a place where almost everyone else keeps their head down as either villain or victim. That she now lives with her widowed mother Molly means we get more of a lovely dynamic between Rundle and the star of the supporting cast Lorraine Ashbourne. Joe and Mo are right at the point of parent-child relationship where who looks after whom is in flux. Molly's encyclopedic knowledge of the whole town, the business going back decades, meanwhile, makes her a neat sidekick to when Joe's investigation stall and her big mouth and ever-twitching bullshit detector have now propelled her on a local council where she allows the show to explore how poorly equipped local authorities are to protect their environment. After the Flood is still beyond the average crime saga where the discovery of a corpse stirs up a boy's secrets in the town with sad inhabitants and awful weather, but in maintaining a premium genre piece is a delicate business. Indulge those tropes too much and they'll have to pull indulge those tropes too much and they will pull you back down. Season 2 retreads similar ground. Rather than moving its formula on, its subplots are reactions to the darkest surprises of the first run and less intriguing than the original revelations, while the murder case which Joe sees working with a friendly, inherently trustworthy new partner, Sam, replaces season 1's death in a flood that wasn't actually a drowning with a body full of shotgun pellets that isn't actually a shooting. It's the same again, only less so. Joe is in danger of potting clue from clue and from the suspect to suspect like any other TV cop. Also, this may sound churlish, but there's no flood. The impressive set piece that opened the first run announced that the show was aiming higher, and the lack of an equivalent here signals that these sites have been slightly lowered after floods began to drift. Yeah, really good show. I recommend you check it out. So a good little couple of TV shows there for those of you that give a shit to check out. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I'm sure some of you guys know, and After the Flood. Talking about floods, talking about emergencies, talking about catastrophes, man, my heart goes out to Central C. This is just news that broke on my timeline just now. My heart goes out to Central C. It appears Central C's storage unit was robbed, where he kept all these trainers. Central C storage unit where he kept all of his expensive trainers, I'm assuming, was completely rinsed, according to Central C on his Instagram story. This is kind of sad, I'm not going to lie. I feel for the guy. So as you can see here, There's a post that says my storage unit got my sneaker storage got robbed the other day. 12 years of collecting crep. Had my first Nike ID Air Force One in there. Oh, that's gotta hurt. That ID's from Al Barak in 2015, but everything is written anyway. Buy my new shoe when it drops. As you can see here, there's a picture of, you know, the inside of his storage unit. All the shelves where I'm assuming all the expensive shoes are, because these are the shelves that have those, you know, those sneakerheads that love those boxes that have those clear plastic boxes with a little, you know, with a little thing you can kind of open the flap. So I'm assuming all of his expensive shoes, all of his rare shoes were in these sort of like containers, you know, these little plastic perspex boxes, and maybe on some of these shelves, and maybe in some of these even plastic containers. And those are the ones that got taken, because if you look at the back here, all these shoes didn't get taken. For some reason, whoever thieved his shoes left all of this stuff in the back, because I'm sure this stuff is all probably the GR stuff. But there's some Louis Vuitton stuff here, to be fair, they didn't take. There's some Louis Vuitton stuff there that's not even opened. Like these orange boxes look like Louis Vuitton boxes, or maybe Hermes, but I'm not too sure. But there's a lot of Nike boxes here that haven't been opened, but it looked like they cleaned the entirety of this front section, which was probably the area that kept all the rare shoes. The thing that's only strange about this is that he has a storage unit for his shoes. Is that a storage unit away from his house? Which probably makes, actually, I'll take that back. That makes sense, because I remember when I used to check out his Instagram, I'm pretty sure he's got a really sick little setup. I think he bought like a really cool mansion or some sort of castle or something crazy in like the countryside that all his friends kind of go to hang out in. They record music, they go run, they kind of go and unwind and shit. But maybe he's got another spot in London, you know, that he kind of lives in, obviously. But then I'm assuming that spot in London probably doesn't have the room to you know, to kind of house all of his sneakers. But it might be a bit of a ball ache, to be honest. I'm just thinking to myself, imagine having a house in London, even if you got money, right? Imagine having a nice apartment somewhere in London, and then you have to go to a storage unit to go and change your shoes. You know, it's a bit excessive. You probably still have a selection of shoes at home, I'm assuming, probably just white Air Force Ones. But if you want to wear some nicer things, some different color things, you have to go to a storage unit somewhere else. But fucking hell, man, this is definitely an inside job, in it, because who would know about the storage unit? Because Central C seems like a smart guy, smart kid. I wouldn't imagine he's the type of person that would be on Instagram live showing himself pulling up to the storage facility. Here's where I am, about to get some new crep, I'm going to this award show, blah blah blah, doing that stuff and baiting himself up. I doubt he's that dumb. He seems like a smart kid. So this has to be an inside job, innit? This has to be an inside job. This has to be somebody from his inner circle taking the piss, you know, and waiting for him to maybe go away somewhere. I think the other day he was doing a Nike event, right, with what's his name, with Black Boy Max, for his shoe that was dropping. So maybe that was it. They took advantage of that because he was out all day promoting his thingy, and he was out with all his mates as well. I don't know, but this is kind of sad, man. I can only imagine how this feels like. And I know how you mentioned the Nike ID thing, because I don't know, back in the day, we had especially at Nike Town, there was I forgot the name of it is again, the Nike ID Lab. I think it was Nike ID Lab, right? Where you could go actually into Nike Town on the top floor, and you got to actually, you know, design your Nike IDs there in person. And they had little like areas, little studio area where they had like fabric swatches that you could actually feel the fabric. You could actually kind of do it on a specific iPad that they had. And kind of, you know, obviously you could log in and just get your own designs, but if you want to design it there, you could, and you could obviously be assisted by the Nike Lab ID people. And there's also people that got that stuff for free, some people that pay for that thing. So those Nike ID shoes, especially nowadays, considering how Nike ID isn't as prevalent as it once was. Back in the day when I used to kind of really be into sneakers, Nike ID was a huge deal, especially for sneakerheads. Like every season you'd want to like get yourself a pair and make them up in the colorway that you always loved. I remember I always used to try and do like Rick Owens style kind of dunk colorways on Air Force One highs, which I never ended up getting. I wish I would have ended up doing them, because I remember one year in particular they had the ability to do like an all clear midsole and outsole, kind of similar to the Rio Ferdinand Air Force One. If you remember back in the day, Rio Ferdinand had the Air Force One, and they kind of did that sort of style. So I remember trying to make like a black and white Geo Dunk sort of like style Air Force One colorway. But those things are, you know, you can't get them now, and you know, every season they change the colors that you can use, the bits of the shoe that you can redesign. So Nike ID shoes are definitely one of a kind, definitely unique things that you can't get again. So I know that even though, you know, fucking Censori is a fucking millionaire and he could probably replace most of the things in there, there's some things he can't replace. There's some things he cannot replace. Some of those Nike IDs are irreplaceable. It'll be interesting to see what happens though, because he'll most likely find them again, because there's not, you know, the sneaker industry is a very small industry. So some of the stuff is gonna pop up again on resale sites. It's gonna be very obvious that it's his. I think he might be a size 8 or 7. You know, you got the, you know, you'll know when it's your shoes. So this stuff isn't gonna go away easy. It's not gonna slip away easy. There's, you know, there's kind of a dark market for sneakers, but it's not really, you know, a lot, especially when it's like rare stuff. The same people are buying, it kind of passes through the same hands, legit checks are happening, blah 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 blah. So it's going to be hard to get rid of this stuff without people noticing that you know what I mean, what you've done and shit. But yeah, fucking crushing, man. I would be so gutted, but again, it feels like an inside job. Like, who else would know about this storage unit again, unless he featured in a YouTube video? But I just don't think he's that kind of guy. He seems like he's kind of private and he moves kind of diligently. I doubt he would have, you know, been on Instagram live in here or something, you know what I mean? I'd really much doubt it, but this feels like an inside job. But they cleared it out, man. They cleaned it out. Look at that, all the clear perspex cases, which I've never been a fan of, by the way. I fucking hate those cases. I think they're like really corny when people put their shoes in that, those clear plastic boxes things. I think it's incredibly corny and lame. Either you just have them with no boxes and you just stack them up like the shoes, or you just have them in the regular boxes, you know. But putting them in the clear backs of boxes is fucking lame. The only thing I would do if it was me, I'd probably take pictures of them like in Polaroids and then stick the Polaroid picture on the front of the box. I remember that's what we used to do back in the day. That's a pretty cool thing to do, you know, like a 35mm camera. Just, and again, it adds a bit of, like, you know, it adds a little bit of a unique vibe to your shoes. I'd do that before I get a clear perspex box. And then the next slide, we've got him showing off his new shoe for his brand. Is it Sire? I forgot how you pronounce it. It's a really cool colorway, to be fair. He's kind of taken the colorway from a Fox jacket, I guess, Fox racing jacket, and he's put on the Air Force One. Very reminiscent to like the Marvel Babesters from back in the day, all patent. It's made up of dark navy, a royal blue, and a yellow swoosh. Done really fucking nice. And I love as well the contrast stitching on the panels here too. Kind of gives it a little bit of an extra pop. And you've also got the embroidery of his brand logo here on the back of the heel too, which as well is great because it won't end up kind of rubbing off too easily. But yeah, the get back. So kind of sad, man. I feel for the kid, man. That must be brutal. No matter how rich you are, some of the stuff in that collection is going to be really hard, if not impossible, to get back. Some of the stuff, especially the Nike ID stuff. So thoughts and feelings go out to Central C. According to A16Z, these are the top apps for men and women respectively. It says here the top apps by share of audience using the app in the US for Q4 2025. Male, number 1 YouTube, number 2 Instagram, number 3 Spotify, number 4 Amazon, and number 5 Facebook. For women or females, it's the same top 4, but the 5th choice is Pinterest, which is interesting. Makes sense though. I don't really know of a lot of dudes who use Pinterest. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know of a lot of dudes who use Pinterest, but it has got its own scene, community, bloody blah blah blah, so that makes sense. But the other choices are really interesting too, because it says here the 6th most used app for men is WhatsApp, but then according to this list, it says for females the 6th most used app is Facebook. So, you know, which I would have assumed WhatsApp would be higher for women than men, but I guess not. Discord is obviously number 7 for men. It's mostly a male only app, I'm assuming. WhatsApp is number 7 is Facebook Messenger, which is a separate app, I guess, for Facebook, especially nowadays. I'm pretty sure when you download the app, Facebook on your app, you have to download the Messenger and the Facebook app separately, which is kind of cheeky from them. ChatGPT is number 9 for men. Number 10 is Reddit, which I'm on every fucking day. And Reddit actually doesn't actually feature in the top 10 at all for women. Interesting, isn't it? Again, like, think about it though. You don't really think of the last woman you met in real life that uses Reddit, you know. Although the snark pages on Reddit are really popular, maybe, you know, the snark pages on Reddit are really popular and they feel like they're usually dominated by women. You don't really meet a lot of women IRL that say, yeah, I'm on Reddit, you know. It's not really a thing. But yeah, and then the 10th most used app for women is Venmo. That's hilarious. The 10th most used app for women is Venmo. Is fucking hilarious, bro. I thought Venmo and Cash App and shit, right? So they're always getting paid. Some fucking sugar daddy out there sponsoring some girl's life. TikTok is number 9 for women. TikTok's not even in the top 10 for men, actually. There's no TikTok in the top 10 for men. There's no Discord in the top 10 for women. Interesting, to be honest. There's no payment services at all in the top 10 for men, because men don't get, there's not a lot of guys out there that have sugar mamas. There are some, but not a lot. But I think that's a really interesting list, man. Interesting breakdown. But again, YouTube is king, innit? YouTube is king for most people, bro. Netflix, all those other streaming platforms don't even feature. There's no Netflix on here. There's no fucking Prime Video. There's no BBC iPlayer, ITVX. There's none of that shit. There's 0 video platforms on it. There's no Hulu. There's no Disney. All it is YouTube. YouTube is number 1. YouTube and Instagram look like YouTube, Instagram, Apple. Sorry, YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. There's not even Apple, actually. Actually, there's Amazon, but yeah, that's it. No Prime Video separately. But YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify are the top apps that most people are using. And TikTok doesn't even feature for men, to be fair. TikTok doesn't even feature for men. I actually wonder, going forward, does that mean then that Instagram Reels are popular than TikTok? I wonder if that's true. How would I even fucking find that out? Instagram is Instagram. Let's see. Let's see what Gemini says. No, let's see. Is Instagram, let's see, Reels more popular than TikTok? Let's see what does Gemini say. I'm curious to know this. It depends on how, because I don't really like, unless I don't, I'm not the best judge of all this stuff because I don't really use my Instagram too much. But I don't know. I know people that specifically just go on Reels and just kind of scroll, do the whole doom scroll thing. But I wonder if it's more. Gemini says it depends on how you define popular. If you're looking at raw numbers, Instagram has a larger overall base, but TikTok is clearer the win in engagement. Okay, in time spent, I thought as much. I feel like whenever I do log into my TikTok, the curation and the kind of like what you get on your fucking For You page and whatever else with FYP is way better, and it's way harder to kind of like break the doom scroll than it is on Instagram. They really know how to kind of lock you in. User reach, total users on Instagram leads with approximately 2.3 billion monthly active users, fucking hell, compared to TikTok's 1.9 billion. However, since Reels are integrated to the main Instagram app, almost every Instagram user interacts with them. True, that's a good point, to be fair. Daily views, Reels are a powerhouse on Meta, generating 200 billion views per day. TikTok does not always share their daily view totals, but it remains the most downloaded app globally. Regional dominance. Instagram is more popular in Western markets like the US and Europe and India, where TikTok is banned, and TikTok dominates Southeast Asia and remains culturally engine for the Gen Z globally. Engagement and time spent. Dwell time. TikTok wins here by a landslide. The average TikTok user spends 95 minutes per day on the app, while Instagram users average 30 to 50. Yeah, that makes sense, because I always feel like if ever I am on TikTok, it does do a much better job of just like grabbing you and not letting you go. Whereas Instagram, it only takes a couple of posts quick for you to suddenly be like, I'm off this. Engagement rate. TikTok's algorithm is more aggressive at promoting content to new people. Its average engagement rate is 3.7% to 5.3%, whereas Instagram Reels typically set between 1.2 to 2.8. Virality. TikTok is considered the discovery platform where a brand new account can go viral overnight. Reels is often seen as a relationship platform, better for deepening connection with your existing following. True, to be honest, true. If you want to blow up, you obviously post on TikTok a lot, but if you want to just continue talking to the audience you already have, you do it on Instagram. That makes a lot of sense. And obviously a lot of people also use TikTok as a place to kind of like, use as a place to sort of like post your content and hopefully get people to jump onto your main place where you stream, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it may be. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Moving on, let's talk about this guy. Have you guys heard about this dude? He popped up on my timeline randomly. They said the first caption I saw of this particular post was, "This man is in Japan in 2026 dressing like this." And there's this Japanese guy whose Instagram username is Throwback Mania, and he dresses like he's in, I don't know, the early 2000s, with massive fucking varsity jackets, massive jerseys, massive jeans, basketball sneakers, and everything is matched. Yeah? Everything is matchy. It kind of reminds me of the heyday back in the day. We used to always do this, and I think, you know, matching your jacket with your hat with your sneakers type of thing. But this is aggressively American because of the massive sizes. You know, it's all kind of like 5-6 sizes bigger than what he actually wears. Obviously kind of reminds you in recent times of the kind of style that Playboy Carti was going for whilst he was promoting his album. But this is really fucking cool, and I think the reason why this is really fucking cool is because nowadays, because we all look so similar, there's no more regional styles really for the most part. I think people like this, people like goths, people like emos, you know, for lack of a better term, maybe the traditional skater and kind of metalhead and shit, they kind of stand out now because everyone just looks so similar. So it's kind of refreshing to see somebody who hasn't or is not willing to change or evolve or update their style, but then they stand out nowadays because, you know, cycles and trends repeat. So nowadays, if you walk around looking like this, you don't look that crazy. All you have to do, if you want to be more contemporary, all you'd have to do is maybe change his shoes and put a pair of Timberlands on. But the size of his jeans are very on brand with what everyone's wearing nowadays. The size of his jersey and shirt, maybe just take off the jersey, maybe, and just leave the white t-shirt. I think he would be suited to what's going on now. If you put a do-rag on underneath that hat, he'd be fucking Gucci. But it's incredible. I do love how dedicated to subcultures and trends and being authentic, or Japanese or Asian people are in general. I think this guy's Japanese, I'm assuming he is. They don't cut corners, they don't play no games. If they're into something, they're into something wholeheartedly. They go the whole way. He probably lives a very hip-hop lifestyle too. His apartment is probably full of, you know, old school hip-hop vinyls and DVDs and battle rap shit. You know what I mean? He's probably buying a lot of this stuff like new, or scouring the internet, auction sites and shit. Like I said, he probably lives these raps. And I do love the fact that visually, facially, right, if you zoom in, you can tell he's Asian, but from afar, he just looks like Joe Budden, you know? He just looks like every other kind of light-skinned, mixed-race rapper kind of dude from that era. But if you zoom in, you can tell he's clearly an Asian man, but from afar, he looks like Joe Budden. I love the lineup. Very hip-hop coded, the fucking big, exaggerated earrings. It's kind of giving me, if anything, it's kind of giving me a little bit of Cameron. It's kind of giving me a little bit of Cameron vibe when he was kind of wearing this sort of stuff as well. Big up Cam, big up Dipset, big up Diplomats, all that malarkey. But he's an absolute legend. And another person said, yeah, this bro turned into a Japanese Joe Budden. And then he's actually got an Instagram account. His Instagram account is oh yeah, he's Japanese. It says Throwback Mania. Of course he's Japanese. I shouldn't have fucking even guessed it. I shouldn't have doubted myself here. And he's got all these pictures of himself dressed in these amazing fucking outfits. And he's clearly, you know, living his raps basically. He looks incredible. I fucking love it. Man. He doesn't play any games. The big jeans, the massive shirts, the fucking crazy varsity jackets. The jerseys are probably pretty. Look how long that, like, where do you get that? How do you get a jersey that long? That looks like a skirt, isn't it? It's very, actually from the back, it kind of looks, it's kind of, there's something about it that's kind of like Rick Owens, Hood by Air. I could imagine Hood by Air doing something like this. Like, maybe I could imagine, you know, those brands that love to do like really exaggerated lengths and proportions. I could imagine a brand going out of their way to make like a crazy on purpose, super exaggerated fucking jersey where it literally touches the bottom of the floor, you know? So it literally looks like a long dress. There's something really kind of dressy about this. He's probably got a Pro Club tee on there, crazy Mitchell and Ness or old era, new eras are hard to find. He's tucked his ears into the hat. That's a very subtle thing that only people that have really lived their raps know about, by the way. Tucking your ears into the fucking hat. That was a thing back in the day. But yeah, man, he looks incredible. I fucking love it. I really do love it. I really do, because I'm sure a lot of this stuff is super hard to find. And he's got it all new, all these hats, the Reeboks, some of these fucking fit pics and shit. He went crazy. Look at this one. He went crazy. What's that saying? Mitchell and Jeff. That jacket is harder than hard, man. God damn, he went actually crazy. This might be my favorite outfit, actually. This one in all black might be my favorite outfit. He went crazy, man. He went absolutely nuts. I love this shit. The Jackson Varsity, the black Air Force Ones, like he's on absolute smoke. Yeah, I love this. I absolutely love this. So big up this guy, man. Yeah, I love this as well. He's absolutely, he looks fucking incredible. He kills it. He kills it. He kills it. Very matchy McMatchy. Very kind of there's a different history, different time period. By the way, I'd wear the fuck out of that outfit. Look, the Carhartt jeans with the pink shoes, the pink shirt, the pink New Era. He's got, what is that, a Jacob and Co watch, or what is that watch? Is that a Jacob and Co? I don't know what that was. It's so good. It's so fucking good, man. The beard is immaculately lined up as well. You can't hate on this, man. You can't hate on that. I mean, the beard is immaculate too. He definitely does that he definitely does that spray line on his beard as well. You can tell. But I fucking love it. I fucking love it. This is like what Joe Budden thinks he looks like, you know. Oh, what are these? Are these Reebok pumps? I forgot what that brand is actually. What is that brand? I forgot the brand that he's wearing. But these are like breast cancer awareness versions of the shoe. I forgot this brand, the sneaker brand. Maybe is it Patrick Ewing? Yeah, Patrick Ewing. That's it. It's a Patrick Ewing's. This is hip hop, mate. This is real hip hop. He's got some shit on him, mate. This is real hip hop shit. Patrick Ewing shoes, Air Force Ones, the jerseys, the new eras. This is an era, man. He's not playing any games. This man is not playing any fucking games with y'all. He's playing for keeps. He's fucking playing for keeps. Where is it? I need some more. I need some more images. I need some more. What's his Instagram story saying? Yeah, he's playing for keeps. What's that? Look back on 2025. Oh, these are all of his fits from 2025, right? Crazy. I'm the trash in the sewer. Look at this. Look at all these fits from 2025. Jesus, he went crazy, man. His wardrobe must be nuts. He must have a storage unit too. He definitely must have a storage unit. I love some of these jackets with I think I've got that one with that jersey somewhere in my wardrobe somewhere, but I love the varsity jacket he has that's covered in all the badges and shit. I think those are some of the hardest pieces he has. Oh, the double headband is fucking wild. The double headband is absolutely insane. He's got some stuff on him, mate. He's got some stuff on him. Big up this guy, man. Big up this guy. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Got some fits in it. He's got some fucking fits. I love it. I fucking love it. I love to see his record collection too. I'd love to see his record collection IRL. I'd love to see his record collection IRL. Continuing on, he kind of reminded me a little bit of this clip from back in the day from the Breakfast Club of Joe Budden talking about the very dodgy story that he shared about him not sitting on fucking Tahiri's chest, sitting above, no, it's not sitting on her belly, sitting on her chest area. Allegedly, I think at the time, did she allege that might be the reason why she miscarried? I don't know, but it was a really weird story. But it kind of, he kind of looks like this version of Joe Budden from back in the day when Joe was still on Angel Dust, when he was on Love and Hip Hop, terrorizing fucking young Dominican women and shit. This is an epic story that he shared when he was on the Breakfast Club that one time.
I said, you know what? I'm gonna just go hide under the bed.
Right.
So when she comes,
kind of looks like him, innit?
I'ma know what's really hood.
My hair on the phone.
So I ran under the bed real quick. I don't want to make it too long. I ran under the bed, and I'm under the bed.
This
And I
is
got
Joe
my
Budden.
phone. I'm on my Twitter. I'm reading.
This guy is nuts, yo.
Just chilling under the bed.
And I fell asleep under the bed. I fell asleep.
Right.
So Tahiri comes in with 3 other girls.
Oh, man.
She smells cigarettes. My Twitter's on her desktop. She's like, oh, snap. Anyway, they search the whole house. They don't see nothing. All 4 of them walk in the bedroom. I'm getting good Z's under the bed. One of the girls wants to be a genius and kneel down. The girl starts screaming to the top of her lungs, so inconsiderate, woke me up. You ever wake up and forget where you was at?
So you start screaming.
I woke up and didn't remember what happened.
Right.
So I see this girl screaming, I started screaming. What's happening here? And then I came from under the bed, wiped myself off. Tahiri cursed me out.
Change the locks.
He said, wiped yourself off.
Yeah, Joe
I
started
had
screaming.
dust, hardwood floor under the bed. It's normally dusty.
Joe started
under
screaming
there.
like they was the strangers. Like they was trespassing. Like, what are y'all doing here?
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. But
Oh my God.
she responds to my text now, though.
I bet she does.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to.
Jesus Christ, crazy guy, innit? Crazy guy. Let's move on from that one. We got this really weird clip, by the way, very, very strange and bizarre clip for me. This is courtesy of Twitter Trends page. It says Brittany Renner declares herself born again Christian after Islamic conversion. So as you guys know, Brittany Renner was dating what's his fucking face? She was dating, what's the guy's name again? Why does the name escape me now? You know what I'm talking about, right? What's his fucking name? She was the Kevin Gates. That's it. She was dating Kevin Gates for a while. She converted to Islam. It seemed like she was happy with her decision, despite it being partly due to her relationship with Kevin Gates at the time and marriage that was short-lived. It did seem like she kind of wanted to do it herself. Like she was kind of looking for another way out to kind of live her maybe whoring OF life behind and kind of live a more, I guess, a life that maybe didn't make her feel embarrassed or feel less than, whatever. I don't know. I just felt as if like the conversion was less about Kevin Gates and more so to her trying to make like a new change and turn a new leaf. Well, as soon as they divorced, she, you know, immediately removed the burqa. You know, as soon as she got divorced from Kevin Gates, which happened, I think after like 60 days or something stupid like that, she immediately removed the burqa, started twerking on social media, you know, reminding people what she really looks like underneath there, which, you know, was a bit interesting to me, just looking from the outside observing. But now it seems like she's gone back to some form of religion, but now it's just not Islam, you know, it's Christianity. So it seems like she is kind of like begging and pleading, or maybe there's a desire in her to live a religious life. She's just not too sure what religion it is. I wonder if she'll, you know, if she breaks up with this new guy, will she then, when she gets with another guy, will she stick to fucking Buddhism or something? I don't know. But it seems like she's speedrunning all the religions so far. And now Brittany Renner is allegedly a born-again Christian, according to this post. So Brittany Renner is now a born-again Christian. Let me play this clip for you.
I want to add. Okay. God, please guide our voices. Let nothing that we've been through be in vain, and that whoever needs to hear whatever needs to be shared through us, through the wisdom that you've gifted us, please use us, speak through us, and may our voices, may this video reach the people that need it the most. You know our intentions, cleanse our hearts, purify whatever feelings that are coming up so we can convey whatever messages you would like to use through us. Protect us through this process and just guide us. I want to add.
Interesting, isn't it? She's praying alongside her new boyfriend, it seems like here. It says in the caption, the influencer known for relationship with Antonio Brown and short marriage to Kevin Gates launched a Facets of Life with Brittany Renner on Patreon this year. She converted to Islam during a 52-day marriage with Gates last spring, but now calls herself a born-again Christian in a clip reposted on X. To God be the glory. Critics question her quick shift, joking she adapts to her partner's faiths, like picking shoes, while she focuses on podcast topics like personal growth. There's actually an interesting other clip here where she kind of explains why she decided to convert to Christianity, which I'm gonna check out for you here. Where is it? I just saw it recently. Oh, we're not gonna look at that. I shouldn't have done that, and that should have maybe checked. When it comes to Brittany Renner, you can't be just searching her on Twitter, unfortunately, because, you know, she had a previous life. So let me just quickly go to the thing I need to show you here. There it is. There's the post I was looking for. I was looking for this post right here. So she kind of speaks a little bit about it more here. Let's play this clip. This clip says Brittany Renner tells her new boyfriend that she dropped her $35,000 monthly child support demand from her NBA baby daddy PJ Washington to focus on raising their son. So let's press the clip here.
What did this move from LA to Atlanta bring up for you?
Well, I had a lot of attachments to an idea. I stayed there thinking I was going to have a job, you know. A big part of wanting to stay in California was the child support stuff. As a mom, I felt like I was failing my son. Another girl that I was friends with that were like, why aren't you doing this thing? We're all getting $15,000 a month and up. Like, if you really cared about your son, you would go file for him. Mm-hmm. And so it made me feel like I wasn't doing my job as a mom. You know, he hasn't seen his son since May 7th, 2025. If my child's father doesn't want to be around,
I don't know, the whole her and the PJ Washington guy thing is really nasty, because it did kind of feel like she trapped the kid. I'm not gonna lie. It seems like she was going out of her way to get herself pregnant by a basketball player. She found one, and essentially, you know, I won't say coerced, but it felt like a bit of a grooming. I don't know. It felt disgusting. It felt a bit weird. She was kind of playing up to it, because she kind of, you know, Brittany Renner seems to enjoy being the villain of the internet. So maybe she plays into it for the likes, for the engagement, for her OnlyFans, for money, for whatever, right? It's part of her job. But it did seem kind of disgusting at the time. And I've always thought, whenever there are these issues, and I know there's a lot of like deadbeat dads that exist. I've always kind of wondered in my head how it's possible to be a deadbeat dad, right? How it's possible to have a kid out there and just not care about them. But then the older you get, the more you understand that sometimes if you do have a conflict or an issue with the baby mother and family gets involved and there's money involved and it just gets messy, although you don't want to probably be without seeing your child, it can be very easy not to see them. I can understand. I think when I was younger, I couldn't understand situations where you could be a deadbeat dad. But I think sometimes, adults get in the way. The focus should always be on the child, but it can get really messy. So as bad as it sounds, he hasn't seen his kids since 2025. There's a reason why. But it's not because he doesn't want to see the kids. It's probably because he doesn't want to see her. But yeah, the whole child support economy in the States is just weird anyway. We have a little bit of it in the UK when it comes to people on benefits getting pregnant or having loads of kids and then using that money to live off that and not working. That's kind of a thing as well, a little bit. And I think that's the kind of thing that applies across all races, not just like a black thing. In white poor neighborhoods they do it, Asian poor neighborhoods they do it, black poor, everyone kind of does it. It's a bit of a hustle, and you could also get houses from it, council houses and shit. But in the US, this like other game that girls play, this wags, these are potential, these wannabe wives and girlfriends of footballers and basketball players, is grimy, man. They're on the circuit, on the prowl, looking for prospects, it's kind of grimy. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fucking grimy. Obviously the guys play into it too because they don't mind, doing the deed with these ladies with no protection and shit. But I just feel like her relationship with that PJ kid was just, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. And he kind of fucked her over, to be fair, because it seemed like he was willing to play ball, but then he quickly kind of like, changed the script on her and refused to do the whole, child support thing. And now we're at where we're at, so she, I guess, has to find a new life. Maybe you're kind of sat there hoping that he can kind of hold you down because you got a kid together and use that child support to kind of fund your lifestyle. But then he starts to hate you, doesn't want to fund the lifestyle, maybe gets the kid a separate account that you can't touch or stuff. I don't know. It's all a bit messy.
Mm-hmm. And all you're good for is money? Well, then give me more of it. Give us more of it so at least we can have a good life since you're not going to be involved. If I can't get you to care about something that you co-created, then I might as well hit you where I guess it seemingly would hurt you.
That's not good though, right? Like, I can't get you to care about what you co-create. I might as well hit you where it hurts. Like, that's not really the way to go about doing things. Like, I don't think you get to. I don't. That's a bit of that's too big of a jump to make. You should just try to get on first and be co-parent as best as possible. That's what you should try and do first before you go, oh, you're not doing what I want to do, so now I'm gonna make you feel it. But it's like, can't you just get back to being cordial and being friendly again for the sake of the child, and then kind of working from there?
Thing you care about, which is money. Bringing it full circle, my hearing for that was March 20th. I never needed the money to be happy, and it was understanding that my son doesn't care about that. And at that point, if I'm trying to create this lifestyle for him, I'm creating on someone else's dime.
Exactly. That's
also a false sense of security, reality.
And all these girls ain't doing it.
Right, and they're still baby daddies.
No talent. They just home.
35,000 a month, by the way, is nearly 500,000 a year. Like, I don't know. Does it cost that much to raise a child? I know the child support is kind of relative to the person's income, but does it really cost 35,000 a month to raise like a child? I don't know about that, Brittany Renner. I don't know. I think she was asking a bit too much. I think she was maybe asking for her own rent to be paid, her own car note, her own self-care, wardrobe. I don't think it requires $35,000 a month or $420,000 a year to raise a child. I don't think so.
Let's get into that.
Just, doing nothing every day, saying they got a job.
You're a professional baby mama at the end of the day. And I never, ever wanted like someone else to be my story. But I think also with that influence, with feeling like I wasn't doing enough as a mom, I also didn't have a belief that I could go get it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
That's always that's always the thing that I've kind of like, I think that's just different for women, innit? Women just have that luxury, especially like hot girls online. But I've always wondered, like, why would you want to live Like, you know, the girls that like get money from dudes, the ones who have like sugar daddies and stuff, doesn't it like scare them that they can't fund their own lifestyle that way? Like, I would never want to have a take. Like, if you're like a hot girl, if you're an IG baddie and you're used to getting picked up in black trucks, you're used to driving a G-Wagon, you're used to getting your hair done, you know, at a certain frequency, you're used to getting your nails done at a certain frequency, you're used to having a certain level of wardrobe, you're used to eating at a particular type of restaurant. Imagine you're eating at Nobu like once a week, twice a week, and then suddenly you're able to go to Popeyes and shit. That would be such a downgrade. You know, Five Guys for me is luxury, but imagine going from Nobu to going to eat at Five Guys. You feel like such a fucking bum. But then I wouldn't want, if I was an IG baddie, right? If I was a fucking IG baddie, I wouldn't want to live a life that I can't fund myself, because once I've had the taste of a good life, I can't go back now. You know, once I've had the taste of being able to pick and choose between Chanel, Dior, fucking Bottega, Louis Vuitton, but Hermes bags, I'm not going to be okay with Coach or Diesel. I know they'd make decent bags, but they won't be happy about it. So I wouldn't want a taste of something that I couldn't find myself. So that's the thing that's really difficult if you're IG baddie, because it means that you have to constantly be you have to constantly be on the lookout for new people to fund your lifestyle, because it does eventually end. Like eventually the likes of Ruby Rose, you do end up to be 30. And then there's going to be new hot things coming up who are going to take your place, who guys are going to want to spend money on, because that whole industry is kind of predicated on your youth as well, right? The guys are looking for the quote unquote, for lack of a better term, fresh meat. And if you get to a certain age, Brittany Renner's probably in the mid 30s. Like, you know, you already got a kid that's giving you kind of minus points in that kind of baddie world. It's got to be a really crazy reality check, because you're used to living in this condo, you live in this amazing apartment with this crazy views, and now you have to kind of support yourself and your child. But then you don't have the money to support yourself and your child, but you also don't want to work a regular job because you're fucking Brittany Renner. You know, more power to her, man. More power to her. Moving on. Big up Doja Cat. Doja Cat got fucking insulted a little bit because of this guy called, what's his name? This guy called Lakers forward called Rui Hachmura. Rui Hachmura, I guess, is not the biggest fan of Doja Cat, despite him kind of being wrapped, you know, standing next to her, posing with his arm around her. He doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of her IRL. She seems to be quite happy standing next to a guy that looks like he could be black. I think he is black, to be fair. She tends to not really be the biggest fan of black dudes, so things seems to be white guys. But she seems to be fairly happy with him, looking standing by him. But he wrote in the comments, although the caption says Doja Cat dating Lakers forward Rui Hachmura, he says in the comments, man, fuck no. So he was very, very clear to say that he's not on it. Now, usually when guys do this sort of stuff, it's usually, in my experience, because I've done it before in the past, it's usually an indication that you do like the person. If you're out there in the comments saying man fuck no with your full chest, most likely you like the person, or you did try to hit, she said no, and now you're trying to save face on the internet. But there also is a chance that he maybe isn't a fan of her because she kind of was showing feet in racist chat rooms. That also could be possible. But it is interesting. I feel like Doja Cat's reputation online isn't what it should be. She's so fucking talented. She may be one of the most talented artists of her age range in her peer group, you know, or just in terms of female rap in general. She's definitely the next one. Like, in terms of a potential female rap star who could go on to become as big as Nicki, if not bigger, or as big as Cardi, if not bigger, I think Doja Cat has the potential to do so. Or she's already fast approaching that level. She's incredible. Her range is fucking crazy, from the singing to the rapping to the melodies, the creative direction on the music videos, herself aesthetically, the styling, the live performances, the breath work, like so fucking, she's so high level. But for some reason, I think all her antics outside of music, people don't give the respect that she deserves. But I also wonder slightly if that's maybe in part due to her personality. I'm always curious, like, is Doja Cat a bit of a cunt in real life? Because for some reason you don't really see her getting talked about in certain conversations, you know? Like, a guy like this shouldn't be like saying man fuck no, because I'm thinking he's saying man fuck no because he knows what people say about her online. She hasn't got the best reputation, especially amongst black people, or especially amongst black people, you know, black Twitter, which is mainly US people. They don't seem to maybe vibe with her too much because she's not, you know, maybe the conventional black person that they kind of know and love, and maybe just, again, the racist chat rooms things. but it's kind of a shame again because she's supremely talented. I just see a clip of her performing in Sao Paulo recently, and she looks fucking phenomenal, right? You see her now on screen. Actually, let me see if I can you see that? Look at this. Look at her in Sao Paulo. She's performing she's performing in Brazil. She's on tour right now in Brazil, going fucking crazy. There's something kind of Madonna about her as well, isn't it? She's got kind of she's got such a great ability. She's got such good stage presence. Her dancing is fucking incredible. The way she uses the entirety of the stage. She's so fucking good, man. So fucking good. I wonder if she cares though. I wonder if she cares. If you're Doja Cat and you know you're kind of regarded a bit differently on social media by Black Twitter and all that malarkey, do you really care though? Because I feel like if I was her, I would care slightly because it's starting to impact on her artistry. I feel like people don't give the respect that she deserves when it comes to her artistry and her music solely based on her antics outside of her music. Solely based on maybe this kind of flirtation with the alt-right and all that sort of stuff, the Sam High t-shirts, the always dating white guys, you know, and I think there's also a bit of I don't know why, but especially online, especially on Twitter, people seem to really hate her dating preferences because I guess the white guys are ugly. I think they'll be okay if the white guys are good looking. I think the last couple we've seen, they look like music managers, right? They look like agents, they look like record label executives, they look a little bit dusty and shit. But I think I remember listening to House Phone from No Jumper. Big up House Phone from No Jumper and from Reconnected. I remember him saying that he met Doja Cat back in the day when she was like coming up before that fucking I'm a Cow Moo song, whatever came out. So he's known of her for a while, bubbling up in the LA scene. And he basically said, yeah, she was known back then because I think she was dating some popular producer guy who was a white kid. They ended up having a big falling out, but she was always into white dudes. Like she's never, you know what I mean? Like that's just how she's been. She's not into dating anyone else. But it seems like she's got a bit of a, I guess, a fetish as well. You know how guys, you know how some women like to date black dudes and it doesn't really matter what they look like as long as they're fucking dark as fuck. She seems to have a thing where the guys she dates, it's not really a thing of looks, you know? The looks isn't really the most important thing as long as they're Caucasian. People seem to really don't like that as well, which I think is stupid because again, it's not the music, it's not the artistry. Who gives a fuck about who she dates? But I don't know, man. It's really odd because I feel like she doesn't get the respect that she deserves from her performances because of all the antics, but she's a fucking big deal, man. This is her arriving at a special appearance at MAC Cosmetic in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Look at how crazy everyone's going. Don't get me wrong, most American artists, when they go to fucking Brazil, especially if you're in pop act and stuff, you're gonna get mobbed there. You're gonna be made to feel like you're fucking Michael Jackson, but this is real fandom, man. They're going crazy. I love the haircut, by the way. The haircut is so cool. Yeah, she looks amazing, man. She looks so good. Doja in the Brazilian accent is crazy. So yeah, man, for some reason the people don't give her the respect that she deserves, but she's a big fucking deal. Continuing on, this is really heartbreaking news courtesy of Block Topics, formerly known as Block Topics. Thoughts and feelings go out to fucking Lil Jon. Lil Jon's son, called Nathan Smith, was reported missing on February the 3rd. It was a story that I saw published all over social media, and unfortunately the the update regarding that was that the Milton police said that they pulled a body from a pond who they believe is to be Lil Jon's son, Nathan Murray Smith. The Fulton County medical examiner is working to confirm the identification and cause of death. Police said that there was no indication of foul play, but the investigation is ongoing. I think there was a suggestion that Lil Jon's son may have been suffering from some type of mental health issue or whatever, because I think the account was that he stormed out of the house really late at night with not much in his possession, just walking out of the house in his socks and stuff, and then was kind of not heard from for a few hours, and obviously people started to get worried, and unfortunately they found his body soon after. So I'm not too sure if he had like some sort of break that led him to walking out, or if he did that often, but it's really fucking horrible, really fucking sad, especially when you consider that I think recently Lil Jon's been in the news because he was getting really healthy and getting really fit in the gym and stuff, and he's always talking about his son, always seemed to be very proud of him. And you'd imagine maybe the sobriety thing was I don't know, I'm just gonna get hypothesizing, maybe in part due to him wanting to be more present and hanging around with his son and his family more often. But it's just a really heartbreaking thing, really heartbreaking, because if you kind of followed Lil Jon's career, you would have known about his son, because he always brings him up on the stage and takes pictures of him and shit. So it's absolutely tragic to hear this. This is a statement courtesy of Lil Jon himself. It says, Lil Jon shares a statement confirming the passing of his 20-year-old son Nathan. The quote says, "I'm extremely heartbroken for the tragic loss of our son Nathan Smith. His mother Nicole Smith and I are devastated. Nathan was the kindest human being you could ever meet. He was immensely caring, thoughtful, polite, passionate and warm-hearted. He loved his family and his friends in his life to the fullest. He was an amazingly talented young man, a music producer, an artist, an engineer, a graduate of NYU. We love Nathan with all our hearts and are incredibly proud of him. We also love, he was loved, appreciated in our heart last times together. We were comforted in knowing that we expressed that very sentiment to him." And obviously there's some really cool, heartwarming, heartbreaking pictures of Lil Jon and his son throughout the years. That's really kind of troubling to kind of see, because it seemed like in the end, the fucking, the mental health issues maybe, I would imagine, came up and cost him his life. Absolutely tragic, man. Absolutely tragic. Absolutely fucking tragic. My heart goes out to Lil Jon. Can't imagine what that must feel like. There's, I think it goes without saying, no parent should ever have to bury their child, especially under these type of circumstances. So RIP to Lil Jon's son, Nathan. RIP to Lil Jon's son, Nathan. Moving on, let's play this clip courtesy of Block Topics again, talking about Charlamagne avoiding the topic of the question when it comes to the $200 million deal that he signed with iHeartMedia. So he's sitting down with Earn Your Leisure. By the way, big up Earn Your Leisure, man. They've somehow managed to kind of like, is that a Denim Tears jumper? I think that might be a Denim Tears jumper. Earn Your Leisure found a way to kind of get away from I wouldn't say the cancel culture, but they were sort of getting slighted and exposed on YouTube by a bunch of YouTubers who do the whole like exposing financial gurus and grifters and shit online, especially within the black community. And I felt like I saw there was like a real big uptick in videos toward the end of last year, and it felt like every video I saw was like how fake they were, how the course they were selling was overpriced, how they didn't know this, didn't know that. But it doesn't seem to have affected their reputation at large in the industry. Earn Your Leisure, they've somehow been able to weather that storm of people calling them out for maybe not, being what they say they are, maybe for not, maybe for kind of, finessing the thing, and they seem to have rebounded from that pretty well. I'm not sure if the podcast is still doing well, but they seem to have not really missed a beat. I think they recently went to the NVIDIA headquarters, to kind of have a tour of there. They're doing an interview with Charlamagne The God, who's a very prominent figure in hip hop. So for whatever reason, all the slanderous videos and documentaries on Earn Your Leisure and maybe some of the nefarious stuff they've done over the years hasn't really affected their reputation. So let's hear what Charlamagne The God has to say about his $200 million deal with iHeartMedia.
So you just got 200 million. Scott.
I don't know nothing about those numbers.
Because I
don't know nothing about no numbers.
How I looked at it was like, you're already at iHeart, obviously through the Breakfast Club, Black Effect.
Oh, but you can't speed past that.
I don't want. I'm paraphrasing to see like what I thought would happen in the deal. Right, that encompasses your deal at Breakfast Club. That encompasses perhaps what's happening at Black Effect, and maybe some other creative content that will be created in the future.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why y'all are EYL. Because when people talk about Black Effect, they forget I'm the CEO of Black Effect.
Correct. Right.
What do CEOs get? Salary.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm also a talent at Breakfast Club.
Right.
What do talents get?
Salary.
Yeah. So if you look at, Breakfast Club has been around.
That's pretty cool, isn't it, man? I'm not sure about you, but I don't think I've ever got 2 salaries at the same time. It's always been one at a time. I don't think I've ever got 2 salaries at the same time, like from a job, you know what I mean? Obviously, some of the stuff I do here, you can maybe count as salaries, but in terms of having a job and getting 2 salaries is pretty cool. I remember there was that one kid during COVID, or maybe now recently, a guy recently he kind of exposed himself for having like 7 remote jobs that he was working at the same time. And because of AI, you could kind of automate certain things. He eventually got fired from a bunch of them, but he was kind of juggling 7 full-time jobs at the same time. Absolute baller. But it must be quite nice, isn't it? Receiving 2 fucking salaries at the end of the month or every 2 months, like 2 actual paychecks. Oof, that must be decent.
Now for 15 years, #1 nationally syndicated morning show in the country, right? Like, over the last couple of years, we've been blessed to be #1 in all demographics, like 18 to 24, 18 to 34, 25 to 49. We're in 100+ markets throughout the country. It's a show that you can take and do all type of licensing deals with, whether it's been with Revolt, whether it's been with Tubi, whether it's been on BET. Now we're on Netflix. Like, how much is an anchor of that show worth?
The value of it.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, you got to think about that as well. And you think about a company like Black Effect that is having, tremendous success,
Congrats on 5 years.
Thank you, sir. What is the CEO salary for that? So it's just like, that is where,
But when
whatever numbers they're throwing out there.
But when those numbers get announced, because it's announced, like when Joe Budden announced those numbers, it was done strategically, right? Like even Cosby, like people announce numbers because they want people to know. So when that number gets announced,
the Joe Budden number, I think, again, was mostly rooted in insecurity. I think so. Because you're probably looking... Because Joe Budden, the unfortunate thing about Joe Budden, although he's been around for a while, he's one of the originators of the whole urban hip-hop space. When it comes to podcasts, his numbers kind of compete with some of the bigger podcasts out there in the space, not regardless if you're an urban podcaster or not. The unfortunate thing about Joe Budden is he doesn't work well with others. He's proved over the years that he's not the biggest, he's not the most easiest person to work with if you're a corporation, if you're a big network and stuff. He's very volatile, very, I won't say unreliable, but he's just not somebody that you can, he's a bit of a liability. So I can understand why big streaming platforms, although they know if Netflix gave Joe Budden a deal, he would fucking earn their money back easily, He's definitely going to be an asset to a streaming platform. He's not going to hinder anything. He's going to bring a lot of eyes and attention to them, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of streaming platforms probably, or networks, whatever, they steer clear of him because of that. And I think in his case, he wanted to remind people that he was doing fine, despite not having a big deal, doing his own thing, which I think is brilliant, by the way, being able to brag about or showcase that you're making $20 million from Patreon or whatever alone is fucking insane when you think about the fact that Joe Budden podcast doesn't really have a lot of ads. For the most part, I think it maybe has maybe a couple prize picks and some one other. So there's a potential to, if you really wanted to go crazy with the ads, you can make loads more money. I'm assuming the YouTube AdSense, based on the topics they talk about, maybe isn't the greatest, but they're still making good money off of that. So I think the Patreon numbers, although I didn't like it because I think it kind of, that sort of stuff would kind of unsettle the talent, because they probably look at it thinking, hold on, like my salary, when it compared to the money you're taking, it isn't really comparable, and it'll make you think, oh, that's why Rory Mal left and that's why they had their issues. I think in general that revelation that he made wasn't to do with it didn't come from a place of strength. It came from a place of insecurity mostly, but it still was good to see for people out there to know that, yeah, if you do hustle and you put your nose to the grindstone, those Patreon paywall, direct to consumer, direct to your audience type of thing can work really fucking well. Like if Joe Budden podcast went totally behind the Patreon paywall, I think they'd be fairly fine still. He's got an incredible, very loyal fan base that are very used to paying for their content and don't mind paying for it. And again, he delivers for the most part.
Is that from your side or is that from iHeart side?
I don't never want nobody to know.
So you didn't have anything to do with the announcement?
I don't ever want anybody to know. When I was Forbes, salute to Forbes, my guy Jabari Young, he did the article and I thought it was an article highlighting everything that I got going on. It wasn't just about, because if you read the article, it is about everything that I got going on. It's not just about, iHeart and Black Effect, but it just so happened, not only was it the 5-year anniversary of Black Effect, I was re-signing with iHeart. And it's like all of the pieces just in line. Like, I did an interview with Axios back in September. And the young lady asked me about my deal being up in December. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
That was wild. That's a wild question, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I did the same thing I'm doing with y'all now. You know, ducking the question. Right?
Here's what was.
I kind of think that's a good idea though, because in general, it doesn't really matter the money that he's getting anyway. I know for American people or for black people over there, it's really important to know these type of things, and I do salute them for being very open. In Europe, we're not really, you know, we're kind of shy about sharing our numbers. I think maybe in terms of a thing of like saying, hey, African American people, hey, people from, you know, minorities, whatever, here's what you can make if you know, put your fucking foot to the pedal, if you work hard, if you hustle, if you work these corporations, you know, if you don't mind having partners and stuff, you don't have to do everything on your own, and you can get this kind of money. But I think in general, I think the better thing to show is his ability to kind of ship and to execute at his level, because he's working a really strenuous full-time job being a radio presenter at a massive radio station Monday to Friday, whilst also balancing having his own network, running his own podcast, being a guest or being a co-host on his own shows. You know, he's balancing a lot of things, being a fucking panel person, writing books, seminars, all this malarkey. I think it's way more important to show his level of output and his level of fucking being, you know, his level of his ability to keep on showing up and performing, and with given all the responsibilities he has, as opposed to the money. You know, that's maybe the most inspiring thing for people to see. So I do appreciate the fact that he's like, you know what, let's not the money is not that important. Let's focus on the fact that I'm kind of, you know, operating on this high level and shipping at this level of consistency, at this level of frequency, and for the most part the quality of the product is really high too. It's not like he's shipping out shitty podcasts. Most of the shows on Black Effect Network are very highly regarded and have a big fan base and audience. They were very unique. I think it's a really cool thing that he's kind of showcasing out there. And the denim tears jumper is really cool too.
Left out of it, and
or sweatshirt.
When you compare it to sports, you can see obviously somebody signs for a amount, but the time frame. So, are you comfortable?
Multi-year.
Multi-year. So that means more than two, but it could
definitely more than two. Definitely more. I think they reported 5.
They reported that.
Yeah.
And you say
allegedly.
That's a lovely contract, isn't it? Multi-year contract is lovely, isn't it? From a corporation or for a platform. That's so cool. But again, I feel bad for Joe. I feel like Joe deserves one of these. You know? I feel bad for Joe Budden. I feel Joe Budden deserves one of these as well, but I just think he's such an if you're not a fan of it, he's such an easily unlikable guy. He's such an easy to not like guy. He's such an unlikable person, and maybe he's such a person that's maybe not the easiest to work with behind the scenes, and reputation maybe precedes him. It kind of removes him from some of these deals. But I think Joe Budden deserves a fat fucking $200 million+ deal. He definitely does. Especially the work that him and Ian Schwartzman do together business-wise. I think they deserve recognition from a platform. Whether or not they'll take it is a different conversation, but I'd love to see Joe get a deal like that, man. I really would.
Listen, I'm probably going to retire with iHeart.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know I'm going to retire with iHeart. First of all, iHeart has been, you know, great partners, right? Like, they watched me come in as a talent, and, you know, we've grown the Breakfast Club, and, you know, when I came to them with the idea for the Black Effect 5 years ago, my deal was up then, you know, and I just wanted to be able to launch a network somewhere. And, you know, iHeart already believed in me as a talent. You know, they saw the vision that I had for the network, and they gave me something that a lot of these corporations don't give you: real ownership, real equity. I'm a 51% owner of the Black Effect Podcast Network. That's on paper. That's not, you know.
That's crazy, man. Congratulations to him. Some 50% owner, and he's a CEO, and he gets paid a salary. Ooh, dee-boo.
Something that I'm just saying because it sounds good.
Well, let's talk about that, because me and you speak about that a lot as far as educating our community that partnerships are not bad. You don't have to have 100% ownership in everything, right? And sometimes that
shots at Dame Dash
narrative gets put out there, kind of discredit certain individuals.
Yeah.
So talk about your relationship with iHeart and the Black Effect Network.
Listen, I'm a JV type of guy. I'm the type of guy that's like, yo, where's the joint venture at? Like, that's what I want to do. And like I said, iHeart has always believed in me as a talent. You know, I can, you know, go to somebody like Bob Pittman, who's the CEO of the company, go to somebody like Rich Bressler and share with them these ideas. And I mean, they do what anybody who's in those positions and isn't afraid of the next person you know, they empower me, right? Like people only don't empower you when they're afraid. Yeah, you don't ever notice that? Like you can go to a lot of people who are in positions of power with some great ideas and they'll either want to take it for themselves or, you know, you hear the stories about signing people and putting them on the shelf. Like for them to say, you know what? I love that idea. Let's do it. Like they didn't have to do that. Like, and that's why I hate when people say things like, they'd be like, you know, you got the machine behind you. I'm not the first talent to have a machine behind me.
Or you're the face of something. That's a common, not to you.
And it's a good thing too, by the way. Having a machine behind you is an acknowledgement and endorsement from the industry that you're worth having a machine put behind you, you know? It's an actual acknowledgement that you're doing work on a level that, you know, would become, you know, platforms, machines would be willing to put the machine behind you and press the button. I think it's a great endorsement. Big up Charlamagne the God. Big up Charlamagne the God. Big up Charlamagne the Blood Clot God. Moving on from that one, let's talk about this a little bit quickly. Regarding Joe Budden TV. Joe Budden podcast. Joe Budden sat down with Shannon Sharpe on the Club Shay Shay show and decided to talk about Rory Mal again, which I fucking hate, by the way. I despise this topic because it dredged up a lot of feelings for me that I still haven't addressed directly. Unfortunately for me, the breakup between Rory Mal and Joe Budden affected me deeply because I haven't listened to the Joe Budden podcast ever since then. I really fucking hated Joe during that entire process because he ruined, I think, in my opinion, one of the greatest podcast shows of all time, one of the greatest lineups of all time. That original lineup with Rory Mal and Joe Budden, to some effects Parks, who's, you know, not really that important, but still, you get what I mean. But that original lineup was so fucking goated. Now, to be fair, I think I was looking back at it with rose-tinted glasses. I think the time that Joe Budden podcast first kind of came about, when they were first at that when they were first in that room in Parks's apartment, or Parks's house, sorry, that studio room, that probably came at a certain point in my life where I was kind of, you know, hustling and doing my thing also, and it kind of suited my lifestyle to be able to listen to this podcast while I was doing a shitty retail job, working in warehouses, and having these guys in my ear for 4 to 6 hours every week was a fucking godsend, innit? But over the years, you know, things changed between them, dynamics changed, blah, 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 blah. The breakup wasn't nice. The breakup wasn't good to see because I think a lot of us fans bought into this kind of parasocial thing, or this thing that Joe was selling about being for the creators. And another thing is what people don't really seem to notice, so I want to mention this. Joe wasn't really liked before Joe Budden podcast, you know. Maybe I'm not mistaken here. Joe Budden was universally disliked, I think, across the board. Unless you were a fan of his raps, unless you were a fan of his kind of like Slaughterhouse era, him rapping in general, Joe Budden wasn't really liked as a personality. The Joe Budden podcast humanized him because we got to see him interact with his close friends, you know, who he's known for many years, and we got to see a different side of him. So it always really kind of always seemed to kind of annoyed me and grated me when he was so dismissive of Rory Mal and acted like they weren't an important part of the show, acted like he was the main guy and everything ran through him, changed the name of the show from I'll Name This Podcast Later to Joe Budden Podcast because, you know, he wanted to stamp that, hey, it's my show first. Didn't really include them in the deals and the contract negotiations and whatever else it may be because it's his show. Didn't give them a split of the YouTube because it's mine. You know, all these stuff like mine. It's like, brother, we don't watch this show because of you. We watch this show because of you and the co-host, and they play a really important part of the show. I think you'd be I think maybe it's different now, but I think Joe would be in for a real rude awakening if he ever did have a solo show. He never would do a solo show, but if Joe ever tried to do a solo podcast, I think he'd be in for a rude awakening. I think he overestimates how much people like him. Anyway, they broke up, and since then it's been an ongoing beef that hasn't stopped. It's been an ongoing back and forth, little fucking digs here and there. For the most part, Rory Mal as of late have been quite quiet on Joe. There's been a couple of sneak disses here and there when it comes to the Ozempic topic, but overall they've been pretty quiet. But Joe obviously is not going to be quiet here. He said something about them on the Shannon Sharpe show. So let's see what he had to say, and I think more replied in the comments. So let's check it out. This is Joe talking about how he still speaks to Rory from Rory Mal, and just talking about the breakup in general.
It was really tough in the moment, like when it was happening. Like you got friendships you're managing business, people's view of the business. It was it was difficult. And then they left. Salute to those brothers. Wish them nothing but the best as well. And again,
so fake, so phony.
And my faith being God.
He's so fake and phony. When he gets on other shows, he's so fake and phony. My faith being God, my ass, mate. My faith, he's like if ever those, I'm not saying godless, but yeah, my faith being God is such a crock of shit.
Right. My faith is in a higher power at all times. So whatever is happening, that's what's supposed to be happening.
Is that how you look at everything? So you look at everything like that. Okay, nothing happens without him, his blessing or his plan, because this was his plan.
Everything is the doing of my higher power. If he's putting it in front of me, there's something that's supposed to be happening, and it's my job to figure that out from there. I'm not sitting around and weeping at the hand that I'm dealt. I'm getting to it. So I needed all of the education that came from that split. It was informative. It was important for me to get to the next place that I was going. And they needed to go and do what they needed to do. But nobody should ever sit around and just be, like you spoke about earlier, just come to work unhappy and sad. And
again, the funny thing about this is that the reason why they were unhappy and sad was because Joe was not being forthcoming with the accounting. It got to a point in time where they wanted to do some accounting on the money that they were receiving, because I think they got a profit split, right? They weren't being paid per episode or whatever else it may be. They got a profit split from the amount the show makes, but they wanted to have an understanding of what the show makes, right? And they weren't being given the right information or the right fucking whatever. And there was also a suggestion that Joe had maybe stolen some money from them. I don't think he stole money in terms of like he stole money. Like, I probably think he did some, I think he used a term, I forgot what it meant. I think he did some Joe Budden accounting where it meant that he got a larger slice of the pie at all times, you know, that sort of thing. And maybe didn't give them as much as they maybe thought they should get. But I don't think he literally took money away from them type of thing, you know. But again, if you're friends, if you're meant to be friends, you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing, right? But then again, very quickly, as soon as they started to ask questions about the finances, Joe made it very clear, or Joe switched up and made it seem as if they weren't friends, you know? They're not friends. I don't owe you anything. The contract says you are a worker. I'm the boss, all this shit. Then academics got involved. And Joe used the kind of the friction between Rory and Mal and academics to kind of make them split more, because he was talking to academics and being friendly with him. It was very messy. But most of it came because Joe's reluctance and refusal to give his co-hosts and his partners who made the show just as much as he did an equal split, or a split that would make it more fair, make it more considerate of the contribution they bring to the show. It's just a really unfortunate situation all around, man. It bums me out still to this day, because that original lineup, I'm still maintaining that original Joe Budden lineup, this right here, that lineup right there might be the greatest podcast of all time. It might go down as the greatest podcast of all time. Some of those clips still, they fucking age like fucking fine wine, mate. They aged so fucking well over the years. Some of the funny clips of these guys ragging on each other and shit. It's a shame they broke up, man. Real fucking shame.
Did you know they weren't happy or sad?
No. Not till it was too late. Not till it was too late. But we had a set of issues. We both had a set of issues. None of us had the proper tools to
deal with it.
And
oh, by the way, he's also a shitty boss, by the way. In the same effect as well, you know, Adam 22 maybe has a great network. I've always thought is very, I think nowadays they do a better job. It seems like nowadays they do a better job. I think Ian Schwartzman, big up him. He kind of sits, I think he's more of the de facto JB TV, JB Entertainment, whatever the whole holding company is. He's like kind of like the manager or the boss kind of thing. So I think Joe also defers to him. Like, don't come to me with your issues, go to Ian, and then Ian discusses with me, then we make a decision type of thing. But before, Joe was sort of like the talent, the co-host, and also the boss or the HR department. That made it a bit weird, you know? And he's, you know, he's kind of a bit of a messy, catty guy anyway. But I don't think that helped things.
Get through it at the time, not and remain whole. So, I mean, happened like it had to happen.
Have you guys been able to make peace? Have you guys had conversation and been cool moving forward?
No, but I think everybody's at peace. I don't think you always need to have...
Definitely not at peace. if Maul ever still, I don't think Maul and him are at peace. Maybe him and Rory could be in the same room and nothing happened. But I think if him and Maul ever cross paths, especially if Maul wanted his people and Joe had his people, I don't think it would be peaceful. I think there's definitely a lot of animosity there, especially considering the stuff that Joe said about Maul, the fact that they were so close, the fact that Maul generally thought Joe was one of his friends, like best friends, and he turned, kind of turned his back on him and treated him like everyone else he treats over his life, which again is interesting kind of anecdote as well in that respect. Same with Adam 22. These guys seem to have really, they seem to have a track record of treating people terribly. But for some reason, the people in their lives always seem to think they're the special ones that won't get treated terribly. I never understood that sort of thing. But hey,
conversations could be at peace, but everybody's at peace. I've spoken to Rory a couple of times. He's doing well. Just to say I love you, proud of what you're doing.
It's so toxic.
It's no hard feelings. It's peace.
I hate people say that. By the way, I hate when people do that. I hate when you have an issue with somebody, but they want to be like toxic, positive, and whatever. And say they love you and they mean no. It's like no. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Joe does that a lot. Like he knows you have an issue with him, but he'll try and kill you with kindness first to make it seem like he's not bothered or he's over it. It's like no.
It's peace.
Joe, you always been like this, or you had to grow, or you had to grow to this level of maturity.
By the way, this is all fake and phony. I think Shannon Sharpe is not really familiar with Joe. When Joe's on his media run, you get this fucking wise, like wise, low energy, kind of like, whatever version of Joe. But he's chatting shit here. Personally, I think he's being super fake here.
Oh, do I sound mature?
You sound very mature.
Oh, shit. For real?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I was a menace. I was an agent of terror and chaos. So this is a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of just growing up. Listen, Shannon, like we started this with, I've been in this shit for 27 years, however long. I've grown up with some of these people.
Right.
Like these people have seen me. What haven't you seen me do? I've been wild on TV. I've been wild on radio. I've been wild on the internet. I've been wild with fans. I've been wild with police. I've done it.
Right.
I've done it. Anything there is to do. I've been blessed enough I've lived. I've traveled. Whoever you think the baddest girl is, we had that run. We did the, come on, man. We was moving around for a little bit. We lived when it was a nightlife, when it was a scene in New York, when it was fun, when it wasn't all.
Anyway, you heard that. By the way, this is Maul's response. Maul's response to the comment. Maul's response to the clip. He puts loads of laughing face emojis. So I guess for Maul, he's not cool. Maul's not cool with him. Maul doesn't believe, or maybe the story about Joe saying him and Rory are cool and they've spoken. I don't think they have spoken. I think they bumped each other at parties. But Joe's always going to lie and finesse things. So I guess it is what it is. I guess it is what it is when it comes to those type of things. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit. Where is it? Where are you? Let's talk a little bit about, where's that article? Do I have it here? Where is it? Oh, why don't I have it? Why don't I have the article? Bear me 1 second here. I had the article here somewhere. It's not that one. Where are you? Okay, cool. I think I'm going to find it again then. Bear me a second here. I wanted to talk about the Bianca Censori interview with the Wall Street Journal. Do I not have it here? I guess I don't have it. Bianca Censori, Vanity Fair. There's an article here that I wanted to read with you fucking guys. Bear me a second while I get it loaded up on here. There we go. Big up Vanity Fair. New article here with Bianca Censori discussing all things Ye. I guess this is kind of to piggyback off of the the article with Ye where he kind of follows up on the 4-page advert he took out in the Wall Street Journal. Bianca Censori sits down with Vanity Fair to talk about her relationship with Ye and just generally her role in his life, her own artistic practice, and give a little background into some of the things that maybe Ye has spoken about in the apology and subsequent interviews and stuff. So you don't really tend to hear from Bianca Censori. She seems like a very private person for the most part. For depending, how private can you be if you're Bianca Censori and you're usually kind of dressed amazingly but usually half naked and shit? It's hard to be private, but she's oddly very visible, but also at the same time very private. It's a very strange mix, and it's a really interesting mix. You don't really hear much of her, but she's very visible in terms of her art, in terms of her style, in terms of being by Kanye's side, in terms of being an integral part of Yeezy and stuff, but she's not very public sort of front facing. So I think that might be why it works, because she's also kind of an artist in her own realm. She's not trying to take Ye's limelight. He's not trying to come into her space, but they complement each other well. They probably work together well behind the scenes and stuff. And it seems like she's been the only person so far. I think Kim tried at one point, but she seems to be the only one that has successfully managed to get Ye to agree to take his medication or to get some serious help and to sort out his mental health issues and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's been the one person to actually get him to that place, even maybe to get him to a place where he's walking back some of this anti-Semitism kind of rhetoric that he was spewing. I think if he was still on this sort of like, I hate the Jews, Hitler's awesome type of thing with Kim, I don't think he publishes that apology. I think a lot of the apology came because of his relationship with Bianca Censori. I think there was an earlier sort of like account of somebody shared of like the reason why they went and lived in Japan for a bit was because of Bianca Censori. She wanted him to kind of deep unplug from like the Western world. A place like Japan is kind of out of the way. There's not a big paparazzi culture as it is here in the Europe and Western parts of the world. They could kind of hide away there and live a somewhat normal life. And he could also kind of get back to eating well and kind of looking after his body and shit. And it was no coincidence, I thought, that at the time that they were traveling a lot through that part of Asia, that Ye looking the best that he's ever looked, and also kind of stopped with the whole I love Hitler, hate the Jews type of rhetoric as well. So she's played an important part of his role. She's played an important part in his life, role in his life. Anyway, so let's double check the article. Let's read it through. Courtesy of Vanity Fair. Bianca Censori, the lead picture is fucking beautiful, isn't it? The lead picture is fucking gorgeous. Bianca Censori sat on top of a black horse with this amazing long hair, fully naked, with the hair covering her breastises and shit. She kind of doesn't even look real on that horse. I'm not gonna lie. The horse, I'm not sure if the horse is real, but it was incredible. Photography by somebody called Katie Garana. Fashion editor by Andrew Mukamel. The title: Bianca Censori uncensored. For the first time, Kanye West's wife is speaking for herself. Bianca Censori says she's done being naked. In her 3 years of public life since she married the artist formerly known as Kanye West, Censori's nudity has become an ostentatious. When I note that yesterday, the first time we'd met in person, Censori's sheer bodysuit and lack of bra exposed her nipples, she says that to me is basically not nudity. So if she wears a sheer top that basically you can see her tits with her nipples, that's not nudity, but nudity is actually nudity, I guess. Fair enough. Again, I think it's very you have to be a certain type of person to be that comfortable in your skin to always be looking at, showing yourself that way. So I think, the way she expresses herself, I've not really got a problem with. I think people that have an issue with the way she dresses is, kind of idiotic. And if anything, she's kind of, she's set a lot of trends. There's a lot of people out there that are kind of taking what she's done and doing them in their own way. So a bit of a trendsetter when it comes to the style. Undress has not been a new or public-facing endeavor. Just a quote: I have had an obvious obsession with nudity. She's 31. Fucking hell. Okay, I didn't know. I thought she was a lot older than that. She's 31 allegedly. She's done a lot in her life, innit? Fucking hell, bless her. I thought she was a lot older than that. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know she was 31 years old. She's considerably younger than Ye, innit? Ye is probably like, what, 10 years plus older than her, innit? Shit. We're in a quiet room upstairs in the space in which her first floor clothed art show will take place in Seoul in December. Ye, as he's now legally known, is there too, but is laying low. Censori suggests to keep the spotlight on the show and this story on his wife. Until now, she says, I was naked everywhere. I didn't detach with it at any point. I consistently show the same imagery over and over again. I live my artwork. Censori's nakedness has been fully literal. Confection as clothing. Censori's nakedness has been fully literal. Confection as a clothing in the form of a hard candy string bikini, as she wore in a business meeting about the planning of a biopop, the first installment of a 7-year performance art project that she's doing in Korea to debut. 7-year performance art project. Incredible, man. Honestly, I need to get into art. Man. The money and the budget involved in art is fucking fantastic. She's got a 7-year project in South Korea. Performance arts project. Or when the world saw, thanks to paparazzi shots, her bare shoulders during a private moment with Ye in the back of a Venetian motorboat. Oh yeah, true. Her giving Ye a sloppy toppy on a boat was great. Or most memorably, on the Grammy red carpet last February, Censori stepped out of the limo, turned away from the cameras and dropped her black Galliano fur on the floor to reveal herself nearly invisible mesh dress sewn onto Censori by future Margiela courtier Simon Carley. Censori hadn't planned for this to be the climax of her nudity project, but she's been working on a film with Ye and the artist Vanessa Beecroft. Oh, we're gonna get a film about her nudity and her street style and shit in real life. I can't wait to see that. Hopefully we see that picture of her taking it. Remember that really amazing picture that Ye took of her in Italy? Ye taken some great pictures of her in Italy. There was when she was dressed in that amazing outfit and she's surrounded by all the fans and she's kind of surrounded by them and they take it. Oh, so cool. A few days before the Grammys, they have happened to come across the illusion of a fabric that actors wear in places of the at the back of the backless gowns to keep them from place. A multi-year process of disrobing was complete. Oh yeah, for the Grammys, that's true. That looks amazing there. She looks really good there. In 2025, Bianca Censori was the most googled woman in the entire world, which Censori requests I point out to the editor of Vanity Fair in a bid on for the cover. I'm trying not to sound like I'm bragging. So she's very much like Ye, innit? She's basically like Ye in spirit, man. Like remind him of my accolades, man. She's very much like Ye. I'm trying not to sound like I'm bragging, but it's not a position that anybody in time has ever had that much visibility without speech. True, very, very true. If this was just nudity, a lot of people would have that. But it also proves in time that was overexposed and vulnerable that mystery still has power. Yeah, for sure. Because again, she's very naked. You see a lot of her, but you don't really know much about her. Right. She's right that her nakedness may not be the only reason for her incredible search volume, but the other reasons are not such a mystery. In the only in-depth interview she's ever given, Censori is finally speaking about the nudity, about her childhood, her early career, and about her husband's mental health. So let me scroll down. I want to see what she says. Is it just a straight up interview or not? It's not. Okay, cool. Let's just have to read the whole thing then. The official channels to Censori have run through her husband's company Yeezy, where Censori leads the architectural department, and through Milo Yiannopoulos, the far-right provocateur who has been worked with Ye since 2024 presidential campaign. But after the Grammys moment, I took an educated guess at her personal email address and made contact. She agreed to call to talk about her art, and we spoke for the first time a few weeks later. The conversations continued over the months. The woman who called herself Bianca, the elusive unicorn, or Bianca, as she pronounces her own name, her Australian accent elongating vowels into dip and triphongs, and eventually explained much more. At the time, it was widely reported that Censori was thinking of leaving Ye amid a deluge of horrifying behavior and possibly, or so, learning speculation of the tabloids and comments of the speculations of abuse of Censori. So yeah, that's true. There was a period where she wasn't around him, innit? They sort of split for a while. Maybe that's the key to a good relationship. They kind of took loads of breaks. I remember she kind of disappeared. She wasn't really around him for a bit, and then she popped up with him again. So maybe they were trying to get divided. Who knows? 5 days after the Grammys, Ye posted, "I'm a Nazi" on X. Yay, man, honestly, those pro-Hitler tweets were fucking crazy. Which he followed up with a message, "I have dominion over my wife. This ain't no woke as feminists are shit. She's with a billionaire." 2 days after that, Ye ran a Super Bowl commercial directing people to his website Yeezy.com, where he began selling t-shirts with swastikas on them. If Censori's project was provoking the world by showing everything while saying nothing, Ye was saying everything, a lot of which was very, very bad. In January, that's an understatement by the way, in January of the year, he apologized, and the trajectory of Censori's story and this story changed yet again. Censori knows that friends who don't have visibility into her frequently peripatetic life before Korea, she'd been in LA Australia and Japan. See her only in tabloid photos or wordless and nude in the background of a footage of her billionaire husband and his cochiera of colleagues, friends and enablers. And like much of the public, these friends wonder whether she has a consent in her public art or if Ye is puppeteering the display of her body. They want to know whether she's silent because she has not been allowed to speak, and they want to ask what I first did a year ago. Is she okay? By the way, even if she is not allowed to speak, what the fuck can you do about it? I don't really understand this whole notion. Like, maybe imagine if Ye doesn't let her speak. She also has to agree to that, you know. She also has to be a willing participant. So if they have this weird relationship, or did they have this kind of, let's say, unconventional relationship where she doesn't get to speak, but he gets to dress her a certain way, and she likes the way that she looks, and then she gets, whose problem is that? Well, like, I mean, like, who gives a fuck? Let them live. I've never understood it. Like, obviously she's not. I think it's obvious. If you've kind of done your Googles on Bianca Censori, you would know that she's kind of dressed the same. She's kind of had the similar sort of elements, tones, styles and themes, whatever, from when she was before she was with Ye, before she even got with Yeezy. She was very performative with her style, with her outfits and stuff, right? A lot of theatrical, kind of almost costumey type of look about her. And then she got with Ye, and obviously he leveled her up a bit, but it's really odd that people think that Ye is the one that's making her walk around half naked and shit. She generally likes the way she looks in the mirror. They have a bit of a freaky couple anyway, you know. I don't know. I'm not really that. It doesn't really bother me. It never has bothered me in the slightest. The quote is, "I don't really care," Censori says, of what we make of her. She says, "I always just think they'll get it someday, and if they don't, they don't. As long as I'm able to express myself to my full potential, that's all that matters to me." That's a very Ye quote, isn't it? That's a very Ye. I love it when your couples happens a couple. You start sounding like each other. That's a very Ye quote. I love that. Before Censori became the most Googled woman in the world, she was a precious little girl in Melbourne. Her parents, who are still married, have 3 children: Bianca, her younger sister, Angelina, and a brilliant brother who does not want to be part of this Michigos. Okay, so there's also a brother in this group. I didn't know that. You usually see the fucking sister who was dating Sneeko for a bit, and I've seen the mum. She was at one of the shows, but you don't really see the brother. I don't think I see a picture of the brother. The family was super Greek Orthodox, Censori says, noting that she still is very religious. When Censori was a child, she would read books on factoids, so she would have something to say about a topic that arose. People would bring something up, and then I would know something about the topic and information. She says, "I'm a researcher and factual also." Censori's father, who had been convicted of a heroin possession and firearm charges before Censori was born. I love that, by the way. So her dad's a fucking biker gang guy, I'm assuming. Owned a fleet of claw machines, successful enough to send his middle class children to private school. That is sick. Bianca Censori is a fucking mob guy, right? He's a biker and shit. I love this, because I think biker gangs are really popular in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty fucking cool. Heroin possession and what was it? Firearm charges. I love that. Amusement machines are better than having a place that collects rent, she says he would tell his daughter. Really? Okay. Amusement machines are better than having a place that collects rent. Shit. Did those claw machines that make that much money? Censori knew the games were suspiciously impossible to win, but one day she decided she must have a Baloo, the pear-shaped bear from the Jungle Book. Though her father could have simply opened the door and given it to her, she sat in front of the machine for 8 hours until she got him, then promptly added him to the 50-odd plushes in her bed. They slept with me because I feel like they had feelings. If one fell on the floor in the night, Censori would wake up bereft. She still occasionally carries stuffed animals around her. According to her, it's now for effect. Censori says that she's always been guided by overwhelming emotion. Her parents had to remove the phone in her living room because she would incessantly call her father at work, demanding to know if he was coming home. If the clock went past 1 minute past the ETA, Censori would ring back, "You're a liar. You're not here. Why would you do that to me?" Jesus, she sounds a bit nuts, which I love as well. I was able to regulate from my own life. I was also pair bonded so intensely, so deeply that person's become a part of me. That's my person. That's why she's super low. Made me seen, you know, that movie Together. They were getting into each other's skin. I love that one. That's kind of who I am. In 2025, film actors and real life spouses Ellison Brie and David Franco slowly fused into the single being. This depth of fueling tracks with how Censori describes nearly every relationship. As a girl, she would sit by the fence and wail when she wouldn't be with her younger brother neighbor of her husband, and she continually repeats, I love him so much. It's only ever brought joy to my life, she says. Codependency. I just love the person so deeply, so intensely that I want to be around them. God almighty, she sounds intense. I love this. Censori apparently got the highest grades of her art for art in her high school graduating class. One of the only things her mother, Alexandra, nervous and wearing a faux fur coat, feels comfortable revealing to me when we meet in Korean after Censori's show. After considering majoring in sculpturing, Censori's entered in the University of Melbourne's architecture program, where she got a bachelor's and then a master's degree. College, she says, was one of the most difficult periods of her life. She's actually a proper qualified architect. That's amazing. Bachelor's and a master's. She did the whole 7 years. I like when something feels intense, horrible, scary, all that sort of stuff, because there's growth on the other side, Censori says, alternating between exorcism level and upset while overworking on assignments and getting deep into context while studying abroad. Kneeling on the sofa, Censori becomes extremely animated as she explains that this because of inadequate housing there, a large percentage of the homes in the city are part of the informal settlements. Since a handful of families own all of Manila's land, these communities often protected by anything other than the de facto tenure, unofficial temporary possession of the area. The monologue on the housing theory was a roundabout way to explaining photo of Censori with her mother, aunt and sister, in which Censori looks like a daughter of Real Housewives of New Jersey, which with a clementine tan, leopard print bustier. I asked about the dissonant image of Censori, and she breezed past the picture itself, which was taken at the wedding that Censori attended after tenuring at Manila. Starting at the undergrad, Censori spent 4 years working at what she calls a normie architecture firm, where she discovered being an architect was less about creating monuments to genius ideas as it is to filing for permits to install a correct number of toilets. She was finishing her thesis in 2020 when the general manager of Yeezy reached out because Ye had seen an image of Censori had posted to Instagram. Not a nude selfie, but a digital mask with alien proportions. Censori sent back her portfolio. She met Ye in Switzerland in the middle of the pandemic. He offered her a job as a head of architecture in Los Angeles, where she fell with a group of fashion and artwork people, including Gadia Rajab, a stylist who has been styling and photographing Censori, and Leo Beckera, the director of Biopop and witness of the early days of Censori's nudity project, when she started sourcing barely clothed dance stores and sex shops. She's always laughing, always dancing, says Beckera. Cool. At Yeezy, Ye and Censori began to iterate. Most of what they were working on was never realized, including more developed versions of the mound-like structures Ye built in his Calabasas, California property in 2019. Censori was also involved with the renovation of the Malibu home built by the Pritzker Prize-winning architecture Tadao Ando, which Ye bought in 2021 for $57.3 million, subsequently gutted, though this was widely considered to be an architectural sin. A representative of Ando told New York Times does not like to talk much about it. Censori feels absolved. She'd been trying to help make a home of a small oceanfront footprint feel as grand as Ando's work deserved. In so doing, Censori and Ye ruined it for their glee. Ando did not respond to Vanity Fair. Jesus Christ. So Tado Ando is still fucking pissed off about that seafront property that Ye bought from him, or I guess that he built or designed, that he gutted. I think you didn't want any windows or something, right? I think he took out all the windows. It was just a concrete shell, but he never really got around to basically fixing it, because I think he bought it during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. Then he ended up selling it again. The house was red taped and sold at a reported 8-figure loss. Fucking hell. When I suggest that her passion for housing security seems at odds with the construction waste and the mouldering remnants, Censori says that rehoming people to a beachfront property in Malibu is a way of controlling them. My husband and I had worked on affordable housing also, but I feel so strongly about the topic that I don't believe it's right to rehouse people in a place that you choose to rehouse them in. Affordable housing is not actually a housing issue. and other systems need to uplift the individual so that they are able to have autonomy and make choices. I like that, by the way. I don't think it's okay to not say, oh, you can't get a house, let me get you a house, but let me put you in that place. Very true. So affordable housing is affordable housing if there's options of the affordable housing, not if you have to live in this particular structure. I agree with her on that one. The thing about destruction is it gives life to something else, Censori says. So when I would enter that house that was quote unquote destroyed, bats were living inside of it, and the seesaw had taken over the steel, and it was in the house and it was rusting. A tree in the shape of a tree, because that's what nature does, or whatever. What does a house want to be? And that, I feel like, may be my life's work. The couple's new home in Beverly Hills is the subject of a HOA dispute, and there's more architectural conservative neighbors. It was built in 2000s, but it looks like it was someone says have been seen in the movie Blau. Censori also liked that expression of ego, this supposed Malibu masterpiece, which was being used as a way and hadn't been intended. They have this idea, okay, once I have this home, I've handed it off to the client, it has to remain the same way as I passed it off, Censori says with the architecture. But that's not how people use space. That's actually, I believe that should be true. To be fair, if I had money to afford a really illustrious, amazing architecturally designed home, and the architecture that originally designed it tried to tell me how I should live in it, or how I should fucking, refurb it, or whatever else it may be, you know what I mean? Fuck off. I paid my money for it. I can do what the fuck I want with the house. I know it's maybe sacrilege to the designer if I paint it fucking pink and stuff, but if I paid for it, I can do what the fuck I want. But that's not how people use space. I think the destruction of a home was beautiful to me, and I think it's symbolic also of that time, I believe. The year Ye purchased a house, Kim Kardashian filed for divorce. A decision she subsequently attributed partially to his mental breaks, which were reported, self-documented, and frequently made into music. Around the same general period, Censori and Ye were falling in love. Proximity, Censori offers by way of explanation. Just working together. You're spending so much time with somebody, so we'd be either on the phone together or with each other all the time. His aura both overpowered her and complemented her own. You've got to see it, Censori says, of the magnetism. We're so similar. Suddenly, Censori was experiencing what her producer Ted Lawson calls the banality of extravagance. When you're in the bubble Ye is in, it's ubiquitous. Rah, I love that, by the way. The banality of extravagance. Censori joined a kind of chaotic privilege captured in a 2025 documentary of Ye in Whose Name. The doc was made over 6 years and comprised of footage showed by Nico Balateros, to whom Ye gave seemingly complete access and letting a young stranger film him for more than half a decade. Despite her inability to moderate in personal relationships, Censori does not make herself seem like an obvious fit for this environment, with her rigorous restraint in her academic and artistic pursuit, in her stringent silence. However, Lawson says she's completely natural there. Amazingly, it doesn't phase her in view. It's normally reality as an entity. She already has a kind of iconic vibe and a sense of herself, and whether people understand what she means or not, it doesn't really matter. I didn't marry my husband because I wanted some sort of platform, Censori says. I married him because I love him, and is that like the corniest thing ever? I didn't marry my husband because I wanted some sort of platform, Bianca Censori says. I married him because I love him. Is that like the most corniest thing ever? It is, but it's also beautiful. I love it. Love these pictures too, by the way. She literally looks like a doll. Censori may not have wanted a platform, but now she had one. She was going to stand on it naked. She understands that no one would be interested in her if she weren't in what she calls a Nepo wife, like famous by association. That's interesting. Calls up a Nepo wife is hilarious. A Nepo wife, like, I'm famous by association, but your image is replicated without your consent all the time. It's replicated, it's brought down, it's picked apart, all those kind of things. The public perceptions seem to be, that's interesting, isn't it? She's a very accomplished woman, obviously, but still, it's like, you're simply reduced down to what you look like. Because what people think about Bianca Censori, great tits, looks amazing in clothes or not that many clothes, Like, it's kind of funny how that happens. The public perception seemed to be that Censori was a mute, captive being trafficked in daylight and dressed by her husband like a sex doll, a narrative that is not aided by the Venetian incident. But I think they're both as, don't people, obviously Ye likes to fuck, but don't people get the feeling that she's also down to fuck as much as he is? I don't know, I get the feeling that she's as, you know what I mean, horny as he. I don't know, I think it's a mutual kinkiness about them. They probably like to get other people involved, watching. I don't know. I think they're fairly well matched in that regard. I never got this idea that Ye was using her like a sex doll. I don't if anything, they use each other as sex dolls. I asked if she knows what people thought happened on the water's taxi. Yes, she says that I gave a blowjob on the boat. She didn't. Ye was sitting on the stern, Censori says, and she was simply kneeling on the stool and resting her head on his lap. She says her aunt, the one with the college era picture, was also on board. The coverage humiliated her. It was the first time I was really embarrassed, Censori says. I felt embarrassed because of my dad, but she says, as I've grown as a human being, no, I don't care. So allegedly, according to her, the iconic picture, she was not sucking Ye's dick. She was simply resting her head on his lap, which I can kind of agree and understand, but Ye was also looking like he was getting his dick sucked, you know? Ye's expression was more telling. He looked like he was trying to hold it in, you know? He looked like he was trying not to bust, to be honest. I don't want to see my goat with a bust face, but it did kind of look that way. I wouldn't be doing something I didn't want to do, Censori says. Every time she has appeared nude, she says it has been her choice. When she does put together a look, she asks Ye for feedback because she thinks he's a genius. Me and my husband would work on my outfits together, Censori says. So it's like a collaboration. It was never I was being told to do something. If you were married to Gianni Versace, wouldn't he give you a dress or something? True, good point, by the way. Lawson says that when they were working for Biopop, Ye always has a thought about something, and it's not like a loud thought, it's often quiet. I would say he's right almost all the time because he's very sensitive and perceptive. Even though he steps back and it's Bianca's work, she's going to do what she wants to do. Okay, that's like that. In 2024, multiple former employees, people who worked with Ye, separately sued him with accusations that included abuse, assault, and hostile work environment. One filing claimed that the musician wore a shirt with a swastika on it and said that Kardashian was controlled by Jewish people. In another case, the assistant who worked at Donda asserted that Ye offered her $1 million annual salary to be available to him 24/7 and gave her additional $1 million to delete her OnlyFans, and that he masturbated in front of her and forced her to have oral sex with him before firing her without severance. In additional filing, that woman accused Ye of swatting her house by firing a third party to file false reports, and including one that she'd kill her own mother in order to incite armed law enforcement raids. Ye has denied all allegations. So why are they writing this in this article? Why are they including this whole thing? Are they going to ask her about this? A model who participated in the 2010 music video involving Ye alleged that during the shoot, he had strangled her and shoved his fingers down her throat while yelling, "This is art. This is fucking art. I'm like Picasso." Imagine giving somebody what's that guy called? Mankind, right? I forgot what his finishing move. Mankind with a sock. Imagine doing something that to a girl and then screaming, "This is art. This is fucking art." Crazy. I'm like Picasso is hilarious. But by the way, Picasso's my favorite contemporary artist of all time. I think definitely up there, Picasso for me. Ye is seeking to dismiss the case, contending in a court filing that among other arguments, the shoot was an on-camera performance that included a staged conduct to emulate sexual assault and other violence, and the model did not object. Jesus Christ, we're doing sexual assault pieces now. Censori seems to both agree with Ye's alleged sentiment that making great art can be obscene and scarring or scaring, and that people can feel wronged by the process. That's some people's path. You have to respect that some people, that's what they need to do. Okay, so I guess she's saying there's no such thing as great art without a bit of risk, without a bit of diciness. The things that go on in Ye and Censori's work, obviously, be inappropriate if they occurred in, for example, an architecture firm. Censori implies that the discomfort with the environment is related to the employment status, as in, when these former employees were a part of the team, they were fine with how things were done. They're always emotional charge. There's obviously times where somebody's hurt by not working anymore. Now Censori says that she hires a producer, she makes sure that they're okay with things like nudity. Before Censori shares anything with what might be considered pornographic, she says, "Do I have consent to show you this image?" She jokes that she sounds shanti, a Sanskrit term for possessing inner peace, about an employee's decision to pursue litigation, but asks, "Can you censor the artist from showing something that they need to show to get their work done?" So we have to work in this. So the environment has to be a little bit tense, has to be a bit on edge, has to be a little bit, you know, in order to get the work that you're getting. I understand. I get what she means. I get what she means. Although I think some of the allegations are a little bit, you know, still have to be addressed. But I understand the rationale. Like the show's director, Becerra, the cheery young people around the performance space who tell me that they're thrilled to be here working with Censori and Ye. Lawson is for now a collaborator who understands the mission. The quote, "To see people as artists, you look beyond good and bad," he says. "Glow is there even when things are controversial. The virtuous artist is like a bizarre idea to me. The artist is traveling up and down the realms of good and evil to find some truth." That's not very true, by the way. Being a virtuous artist is basically tantamount to being a shit artist, right? Like it's almost being like a virtue signaling artist, a woke artist. It's tantamount to being shit. You have to be able to flip between both astral planes. You know, I get it. As to the question of whether you can separate art from the artist, Lawson of course says, quote, "I don't need to know whether Caravaggio was a good or bad person." He concedes, I mean, murder is always obviously a problematic thing. While they live, they have to pay the consequences for their choices. True. By the way, I'm more of a Bronzino fan. I know people like Caravaggio, but I'm more of a Bronzino fan. Not the most obvious. If you know, you know. But I've always been more of a Bronzino fan. Big up Bronzino. Until February 2025, it didn't bother Censori that people were absorbing her nakedness as something cheap and attention seeking. "I was never gone home and cry. I did not like that part," she says. "I've never gone home and cried myself to sleep over anything anyone has said, because it interests me when the reaction is not the intention, because that's just what lives within everybody. I was explaining this to somebody once and he said, well, your intention was lost. It's okay that the intention was lost. It doesn't matter. I was able to express myself. That's all that's mattered." I love that, by the way. I love that. She gets completely the people's reaction to her, but hey, as long as I get what I need to get across, that's the most important thing. There's more to read here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because I've got to change over to the random show, but I'll put the link in the description if you want to check out the article yourself. I actually put the archive linked in there. It's a really fucking cool piece. Big up Bianca Censori, big up Vanity Fair. I'll probably finish the other half in another episode, but big up Bianca Censori, big up Blood Clot Bianca Censori. You love to hear it. You freaking love to fucking hear it. Okay, cool. We are going to end it there. Because I've gone over time. Apologies for the time delay. Big up everybody for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Do not be delaying. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Do not delay. Smash the like, hit subscribe. And I'll see you guys again on the other side of things. For those of you who listen to the podcast via the audio side of the platform, you will hear my song of the day. That will be by the Ratboys, right? It'll be by the Ratboys. The Ratboys have a new album that just dropped recently, which I'm going to be playing as my song of the day. And the song of the day from the Ratboys will be from the album that just dropped recently called Singing to an Empty Chair. And the song that I'm going to play from Ratboys, Singing to an Empty Chair, will be the track number, where is it? Singing to an Empty Chair. The track I'm going to be playing here will be track number, where is it? Track number 9 will be my song of the day. Track number 9 by Ratboys. Track number 9 by Ratboys will be my song of the day. It'll only be available to listen to via Kick. So if you're on Kick, switch over to Kick, and I'll be playing this song live on YouTube. Unfortunately, I'm just going to fade to black because you know how YouTube is with copyright strikes. But the song of the day will be courtesy of Ratboy, and the song will be what I say there, I said What's Right. Track number 9, What's Right, is a song of the day. Big up everybody for tuning in. Everybody else, take care, peace. I'll see you at the random show in a couple of minutes. Bye.